Deixa eu só ver aqui. Já estamos ao vivo no YouTube. Estamos, né? Deixa eu ver se tá tudo certo. Que horário bosta pra fazer campfire? Foi. Então, tudo certo no YouTube também, beleza. Boa, Gui. Então, esperando a equipe da Blizzard abrir a live deles. Daqui meia horinha eles começam e pelo jeito o negócio vai ser louco, porque eles vão mostrar tudo que mudou desde a última PTR. Eles podiam fazer no sábado. Você sabe que eles estão trabalhando, né, só usaram. Zudani, boa tarde. E você tá ligado, eles estão trabalhando, né? Quer que os caras trabalhem de sábado. Deixa eu ver. Pô, eu não consegui terminar a expansão Starfield, cara. Quanto aí? Mano, dia 4 vai ser. Já tô avisando que vai ser uma putaria. Alexa, desliga o ventilador. Muita expectativa. Porra, Douglas, muita coisa, cara. Quero ver o que vai mudar. O que mudou da PTR. Tem quantos vídeos programados? Mano, gordo, acredita que eu não programei ainda nem o review? Que eu não terminei de editar? Mas assim, vocês têm. Oh, é uma boa aproveitar que a gente tá aqui. Vocês têm alguma coisa que vocês têm dúvida ou que vocês querem saber? Eu tô com um monte de vídeo pra gravar aqui. Eu vou ter que correr meio que tudo em cima da hora. Live em horário comercial é trabalho ou 2 horas ali de cadeira paga? Uma coisa é uma coisa, outra coisa, né? Em tese, quantos vídeos vai fazer? Bastante. Eu olhei aqui a lista, é mais do que eu gostaria. Masmorra que precisava de gente pra fazer. Ah, isso eles já falaram, precisa de no mínimo 2 pessoas. Nível gameplay, RJ, então? Cara, eu não sei se isso foi um elogio. 7 vídeos ou mais todos os dias. Ah, tá. Então agora entendi. Éder, a coquinha tá gelada, cara. Mas o calor tá tão grande, velho. Preocupado se eles não vão buffar no Night Spirit e nerfar as outras. Cara, nerf no Bárbaro, a gente tá escutando isso desde 1900 bolinha, né? A maior dúvida é sobre a raid e se os mercenários estão legais. Uma boa, né? Deixa eu ver assim se eu já coloquei. Eu não tinha colocado. Eu tinha na lista, mas eu não colocar. Então, as runas da PTR, eu vou falar a verdade, eu gostei, mas não gostei. Por quê? Eu gostei da ideia porque dá pra gente mais liberdade de construir uma build, sabe? E principalmente é algo que não é aquela coisa do vou fazer e vou escolher essa, sabe? Porque lá a gente, óbvio, né? Lá a gente teve todas ali, a gente pode escolher todas. Mas imagina, tipo assim, você vai ter que dropar a runa. Então você vai ter que descobrir. Tipo, se funciona com a sua build, se não funciona. Pode flopar. Essa câmera é irritante. Deixa ela parada, por favor. Não, vou não. Mas você pode mudar de live. Tem outras lives ali que a câmera é paradinha. Arthur, aluguel pago. Obrigado pelo resub. Eu ficaria mexendo pra todo lado agora, não é? Não, e tem umas horas que ela fica possuída, velho. Aí, nossa, o cara ia surtar ali. E aí, Caliel, boa tarde. Boa tarde, Extremer. No anime de lance de raid. Então, esse é o lance, cara. Por mais que a galera tenta falar, Diablo sempre foi um jogo para jogar sozinho. Não adianta a gente fingir que não, mas eu jogava com meus amigos. Meu cu, todo mundo joga essa porra sozinho. Mas dependendo de como for, que nem... se eles conseguirem fazer o que o Destiny fez, que é trazer o conceito de uma raid do World of Warcraft da vida pro Diablo, puta, vai ser foda. Porque quem jogou Destiny sabe. Cara, as raids eram um negócio assim, tão foda, cara. É tão foda que mesmo que não tivesse, assim, recompensa, a gente fazia toda semana. E não, cara, dá pra fazer muita coisa com as runas. Mas do jeito que tá, eu achei que é mais opção. Mais opção é bom. Não, e aí? Que horas começa a live dos devs? Às 3. Pelo que vi, todo mundo tava usando a mesma runa. Meu Regos, vou falar a verdade. É um bando de puta. Tá? Alguém fala, geralmente alguém de fora, né? Alguém fala, essa aqui é melhor, ó. Aí todo mundo usa. Ninguém quer saber se casa com a build. Não, todo mundo usa porque alguém falou, sabe? Mano, aqui, pra mim não tem pra câmara de cristal. Foi a primeira, foi que, assim, quebrou os caras no meio a primeira vez, porque nas outras, a partir da câmara de cristal, a galera já tava esperando umas coisas mais loucas, né? Tá mais difícil ou mais fácil as mecânicas? Tipo, que mecânicas, ô Renan? Desculpa. Gente, eu tô com os dois chats, então eu tô perdendo mensagem, tá? Qualquer coisa, manda de novo. Nossa, o Destiny 1 era bom demais, cara. Pra mim, jogar sozinho é essência. Não, eu também. Tá? Tipo, mano, eu jogo em live e eu jogo sozinho. Pra mim, seria fácil juntar uma galera, entendeu? Pra jogar. E ainda assim, eu jogo sozinho. Madre, boa tarde, como é que você tá? Um vídeo como os mercenários vão interagir com o personagem principal. Mercenários. Já anotei. Ô, gente, se vocês estiverem tarde, olha, gente, quem não conhece o homem, a lenda, o melhor do mundo, o Xalaca, aquele que joga os joguinhos indies mais legais do mundo. Que tava jogando um da hora mesmo, que eu tenho que instalar, ainda nem tenho instalado, mas. Sobrevivendo. Não, eu já desisti de sobreviver, madre. Eu só tô esperando apodrecer mesmo. Tomei suspensão por rir em caps. O Regulus, mas aí, né, 20 anos de curso, porra. Não, a turma não tenta criar build. Não, não. Alguém falou, isso aqui é meta. A galera. Mano, a galera não. Eu não tô brincando. A galera não lê o que o próprio personagem faz, cara. Acho que não... Cara, eu gosto de roguelike quando eu acho que ele acrescenta. Acrescenta, assim, uma mecânica divertida. Quando ele só quer acrescentar tempo pra fazer você ficar jogando a mesma merda, aí eu acho chato pra caralho. Tem de tudo, e aí? Já jogou Baldur's Gate 3? Puta, você já jogou. Ô, Caliel, cara. Dá uma olhada, tem uma playlist de Baldur's Gate no YouTube. Então, você tem que morrer pra você pegar bônus pra você poder avançar. Você nunca consegue fazer de primeira, porque o jogo literalmente enfia o dedo no teu cu. Então, é exatamente. Esse é o tipo de roguelike que eu não gosto. Mas que nem. Você chegou a jogar o House of Torment? Que é o Diablo 1 roguelike? Eu tinha jogado ele, né? Tipo, quando tava no early, mas eu não parei, né? Cara, eu não, tipo. Mano, então, aí lançou 1.0, eu fui jogar. E eu ia falar, tipo assim, eu tinha prometido pros caras, falar, não, pode deixar que eu vou jogar um pouquinho em live, né? Eles me mandaram antecipado pra fazer review, falando isso, eu tenho que fazer review desse também. Cara, eu não fiz o review porque eu fiquei viciado. Eu não parei de jogar. Aí você vai liberando novos personagens, aí você vai atrás da lore. Caralho, velho, é muito bom, mano. Nossa, o Dwarven Realms eu acho muito foda. Eu jogo ele toda a temporada, Dwarven Realms. Que ele não queria dar spoiler, né, pros caras. Ele falou, não, joga aí porque eu preciso dar spoiler pra alguém. Harold, o Haroldo. É Haroldo, né? Ou é Harold? Eu acho que é Haroldo, mas agora nunca descobri. Mas então, Silent Hill 2 Remake. Se eu for jogar, eu vou jogar só no final de semana que eu voltar da BGS. Então, assim, porque ele vai sair no mesmo dia que o Diablo. E, bom. Nem fodendo, sabe? O velho Viking chama House of Torment. Ele é Diablo 1, com os gráficos do Diablo 1, só que na pegada do. Deixa aqui na pegada do. Cadê? Não acho que é meu ovo. Aí. Na pegada do Vampire Survivors. Mano, ele é muito bom, cara. Muito bom mesmo. Ó, o 1.0 é bom demais, cara. E assim, eu joguei muito pouco antes. A hora que saiu o 1.0, cracudei no negócio. Agora, nossa, o Baldur's Gate, eu não coloquei nenhum mod. Ah, não, eu tinha colocado uns mods antes, né? Quando tava só no. Como é que chama? No Nexus Mods. Mas agora que tem mod oficial, porra. Pô, acredito que eu não joguei Returnal, Felipe. Eu vi o jogo, eu vi a galera jogando, parece ser foda, mas eu não joguei. Queria, esse eu queria mesmo. Agora, Dwarven Realms é um que eu recomendo. Real, assim. Dwarven Realms é bom demais. Obrigado, Zard. É o House of Torment que a gente tava falando, gente. Ô, gente, vocês estão escutando a musiquinha ali. Tá escutando a música, tá, né? E tá aqui, ó, mas não tá rolando nada, tá? Seven Days to Die? Não. Não. Tentei jogar, não gostei. Ficou por isso mesmo. Tem certos tipos de jogo, cara. E não me pega, velho. Simulador de andar pra frente não me pega. E jogo de sobrevivência que quer ser ultra hardcore, sabe? O MMO da Amazon, qual deles, ô Madre? O Throne and Liberty? Esse não me pega, não. O New World eu gosto bastante. Gosto mesmo daquele jogo. Só que ele lança semana que vem junto com o Diablo, adivinha? Vou nem olhar pra ele. Conscript? Oh, o nome não é estranho, mas eu tenho absoluta certeza que eu não joguei. E eu vou procurar agora. Porque às vezes eu tenho até... Mano, às vezes eu tenho na biblioteca e eu não vi. Script. Qual que é desse jogo? Pô, peraí, esse aqui parece da hora, né? Peraí, vamos ver isso aqui. Cara, não é que lançar junto do Diabo. O público-alvo é bem diferente. Vamos ser bem sinceros. É muito, muito diferente o público-alvo. E outra, a Amazon tem que lançar essa bomba antes da Black Friday. Pô, o Titan Quest eu vi. Tá legal. Tá bonito. Assim, não tá bonito. Tá bonito. Gente, esse daqui é o Conscript. Joguei Tron Liberty em live, acho que não vou ter paciência, mas ele é lindo o jogo. Ele é lindo. Ele é 3D, mas não é 3D, né? Ele mete esses pixels do demônio. Nossa senhora, o estilo Resident. Mano. Queima, Satanás. Queima uma boa tarde. Oi, parece legal, né? Não entendi nada, mas parece legal. Ó, da Team Seventeen, eu acho que eu tenho contato com esses caras. Eu vou ver se eu pego. Roguelite de terror? Mas como? Mano, Survival Horror na Batalha de Verdun. Porra, parece ser mó legal. Ele não é roguelike, não. Ah, tá. Então, pelo que eu tava vendo ali, ele parecia só de história, né? Não roguelike. O problema é que tudo que arma no game põe a mão da merda. Isso é uma verdade. Aí me pareceu que Solasta é bom, cara. O Solasta e o Baldur's, ambos são baseados no... Como é que chama? Eles são baseados nas regras do D&D. O Solasta é mais do que o Baldur's até. Comprei a expansão do Diablo 4. Mano, então, eu não acho que vale 400 conto na expansão, tá? Eu não gostei daquelas skins, não. Dito isso, eu paguei 400 conto. Não, ambos utilizam as regras do D&D. É que o Solasta, ele é mais fiel. Então, tem Season Pass de 1 ano, isso é verdade. Mas eu vou gastar tudo em skin. Então... Já podemos não falar sobre expansão. Já podemos não falar sobre expansão. Essa turma daquele jogo que fez o Blasphemous? Não, né? Não, é? O Blasphemous é bom demais, mas não tem... Senão eles iam meter lá, tipo, né, dos criadores de Blasphemous. Disseram que a DLC ia chegar na Game Pass, é verdade? É verdade que disseram ou que vai chegar na Game Pass? Porque assim, alguém pode ter dito isso. E eu posso dizer que essa pessoa é um idiota. Qual das duas é a verdade? 400 conto é uma expansão misteriosa, né? É bem isso. Mas assim, gente, expansão não tem na DLC, não chega na Game Pass, tá? Tipo, você tem desconto pra comprar se você for assinante da Game Pass, mas nenhuma expansão chega na Game Pass, tá, gente? Só pra deixar claro. Pô, já saiu o novo Gundam? É, se você tá com a Game Pass, você só compra a expansão, sabe? Barato. Só dia 17, ah. Pô, e a bruxa de não sei das quantas? Esse daí eu queria ter visto, mas eu acabei não... Nem tchum. Vou voltar pra cá, porque a gente não precisa ficar olhando o timer deles, né? É maneiro ainda, esse eu não assisti. Pô, eu comecei a assistir o Haikyuu, aí eu não... É que essa semana eu não tive tempo de continuar. Mas é bom demais. No, o Iron Blooded Orphans é... Não tem... Ah, eu vou ver então, Charlas. Eu juro que a hora que eu ver, eu já te falo, olha, pode mandar um spoiler. Mas o Iron Blooded Orphans é... Cara, não tem. Aquele lá é foda pra caralho. Bora montar o clã dia 8? Sim! A gente tem que achar um nome pro clã do dia 8. Ô, Éder, você acredita que eles não mandaram nem o The Day Before? Eu tive que comprar aquela bomba? Vai ter que ser mais específico da bruxa. Não, eu lembro que era a bruxa de algum lugar. E era um anime do Gundam, mas eu não lembro. Ó, Gundam IBO, qual que é o IBO? E o Ace MS são os melhores. Cara, esses eu não conheço. Mano, eu assisti os clássicos eu tô falando os velhos pra caralho, tá? Aí depois, acho que assisti o Gundam Wing. Witch from Mercury, obrigado, Antônio, é isso. O Gundam Wing, não, achei mais ou menos. O Thunderbolt, eu só vi a trilha sonora. Porra, e é foda a trilha sonora. Eu não vi nada do Thunderbolt. Mas a trilha sonora eu escuto direto. Não, mano, dia 8, ou melhor, dia 7, né, que começa às 8, só vai estar a tigresa VIP no meio do mato, bicho. Não, Caliel, não, a gente faz um clã toda temporada, né? Mas tem que ser aquele nome, sabe, que você fala, puta, cara, como é que alguém dá um nome desse pro bagulho? Então, o Wing, eu não gostei também. Eu assisti porque eu era moleque, assisti na época, tipo, eu era moleque e os Gundam de lá são da hora, né? Mas não, aí hoje, assistindo hoje, tipo, não é bom. Quer dizer, o Iron Blooded é muito bom. O Iron Blooded foi quando eu comecei. Eu falei, não, mano, eu vou ter que começar a assistir Gundam de novo. E aí teve aquele... Teve o filme da... Porra, como é que chama o filme? Cara, eu tô esquecendo tudo. O nome do canceiro é Tigresa VIP. Pô, é verdade, né? Assistindo... Exato, tipo... Então... Como é que na... gente, quando eu assisti o Gundam... Quando é o Gundam Wing? Vamos lá, vamos procurar aqui. Ó, 95, mano. 95 eu era moleque, velho. Tinha, sei lá, 12, 13 anos. Então, eu vi quando eu era moleque. Né? Tipo assim, mano, e era a explosão de anime no Brasil, né? Porque quando começou Cavaleiros do Zodíaco e coisa e tal. E a gente via naquelas revistas, tipo, aqueles robozão foda. Eu falei, caralho, né? Mano, eu achei foda. Aí eu assisti, sei lá. O clã que leva pica de geral? Não, mas não é só isso que a gente leva, ô Caliel. Sexta VIP. Pô, Sexta VIP ficou bom, hein? Porque é uma homenagem à Sexta Sexy e à Tigresa VIP. Pô, qual que era o... Na Netflix tem um... Tigrinha. Gundam meio famosinho. Então... Não, mas todo Gundam é spin-off, vamos falar a verdade, né? E, tipo assim, até onde eu... Só pra deixar claro, tá, gente? Eu não tô falando que eu sou conhecedor de Gundam, não. Mas assim, o que é canônico é aqueles antigos que eu acho legal pra caralho. Mas, mano, ali tinha poderes psíquicos, sabe? Aí depois, velho, cada história do Gundam eu trato como se fosse isolado. Sim, os clássicos mesmo, o contra-ataque do Char. É Char's Revenge, não é? Ou Counter-Strike? Até, mano, o Unicorn eu não consegui tancar, cara. Eu tentei, não consegui. Então, alguém falou do Ace MS aí, eu tenho que dar uma olhada. É muito diferente, tipo, os Gundams. Aí eu, tipo, eu trato cada um, eu isolo, sabe? Tipo, eu, eu, eu assisto o que tá ali, velho. E eu não comparo com o que veio. É Charles contra-ataque. É mesmo, caralho. Nem ligo mais pra história. Mano, mas o Gundam, a melhor parte é a história, velho. Tipo, a história do Gundam é que é o que bate pesado pra caralho. Tô no canal de streaming pra eu poder mandar uns subs. E aí, se não mandar aqui, Udi. Se não mandar aqui, o pipi não sobe mais quando você vê os vídeos da tigresa. Mas se subisse, já ia falar, hein? Porra, desespero do caralho. Mano, exato. O Gundam é muito mais, tipo, a pessoa do que o robô. Vamos ver aqui. Estamos ao vivo no YouTube. Nossa, agora que eu vi tanto de merda que eu falei, isso aqui vai barrar no YouTube lindo. Acham Gundam melhor que Evangelion? Puta, acho. Pô, eu gosto muito do Evangelion, tá? Mas vamos falar a verdade. Nem os caras da Gainax sabiam onde levar aquela bosta no final, mano. Mas assim, na época do Evangelion, quando, assim, vamos falar da série clássica do Evangelion, comparado ali com o que eu assisti de Gundam naquela época, o Evangelion era melhor. Hoje, com o que tem hoje, Gundam tem muito mais pontos altos do que o Evangelion. Ó, do Gundam original até o ZZ, é dentro da Universal Century. Que são histórias que se complementam. Sim, que ali você vê que é sequência, né? Tipo, tudo mais. Tudo depois do Gundam Wing que funciona de forma independente. Porra, mas começaram com a desgraceira, né, velho? Com a boy band de... Hathaway, esse que eu tava tentando lembrar. Porque se passa naquela... No Universal Century. O Hathaway é bom demais. Você chegou a assistir isso daí, Oxala? Mano, Gundam Hathaway. Caralho, e eles não lançam a sequência daquela bosta, bicho. Esse tem na Netflix, é um filme. Eu acho que é 1h30, 2 horas. Não vou contar nada. Só assiste. Mano, não. Só assiste, velho. Torna Gundam. Porra, eu assisti essa bosta, cara. Caralho, esse daí... Eu queria ter apagado da minha memória se você não tivesse me lembrado disso. Tá pra sair uma animação, sim! Uma animação do Zaku, né? Eu achei bem legal. É muito da hora sobre gás espacial. Log, Legends of the Galactic Heroes. Esse eu nunca vi, mas vamos ver. Segundo filme do Rato vai sair ano que vem. Mano, até lá eu já infartei de novo, bicho. Eles têm que lançar isso aí antes de eu morrer, gente. Eu já tô fazendo hora extra aqui. Tá, começou aqui. Aqui é 5 minutos antes, né? Eu vou aproveitar e vou encher o meu copo, gente. Eu vou deixar rolando aqui, ó. Vou tirar minha cara. Vessel of Hatred is the next big chapter in the story of Diablo IV. When we last left off, deixa eu ver se tá ok. Tá ok o áudio? This is a tremendous burden for someone as young. Thunderbolt é bom por causa disso, Antônio. Eu nunca vi o Thunderbolt, mas a série mas a trilha sonora é boa demais. As Neyrelle seeks salvation from Mephisto and searches for a way to banish him back to the abyss.
As we wrap up Diablo IV, there has been a huge battle in hell between Inarius, the Cathedral of Lights, and Lilith and all of her demons.
Throughout this entire campaign in Diablo IV, you're basically trying to defeat Lilith, so you team up with people like Neyrelle, who's this young, eager character, and then you've got Laura, who is this sort of wise drunk. He was the Herodrum, so he brings this rounded, old-school thinking. He ends up being the catalyst of the group.
Inarius believed that if he killed Lilith, he would be accepted again by heaven. So he went after Lilith. He actually stabbed her, and heaven did not take him back. And he had this moment of, I've been wrong this entire time, and she used that against him and ended up killing Inarius. Her goal was to devour her father, Mephisto, and we ended up actually stopping her. And so even though she was defeated, she kind of gave us a warning of, I was the only one that could actually save you from Mephisto.
Neyrelle is left with the Soul Stone, and she decides to take the essence of Mephisto and trap him into the Soul Stone.
Lorath is still with us and is going to try and help us find information on where Neyrelle went.
And so we leave off with her sailing south with the stone, telling you, do not follow. The world might need you. And over time, things start to unfold, and you realize that Neyrelle cannot do this alone. And so you start your search for her. When we pick up in Vessel of Hatred, the Cathedral of Light is kind of in disarray.
It became a bit fractured with the death of Inarius, so there was a bit of a split with the Cathedral of Light afterwards.
This created an opening for a whole new sect to rise up and take things into their own hands. And so you end up with a militant wing of the church that is the Burnt Knights. Burnt Knights are led by Yurvar, a survivor of hell. He's uncompromising. He feels that he's final judgment and that he's going to make better decisions for the church.
They battled in hell, and now they're on this manhunt for Neyrelle and for Lorath. They want them to pay for their crimes, and they think that they should be the ones that have a say on what happens to Sanctuary.
Mephisto is the Lord of Hatred. He's probably the one primeval that can create the most deep-rooted chaos, breaking up the people of Sanctuary.
In the events of Diablo II, he was destroyed. He's been slowly resurrecting himself in hell, and he wants to come back and bring himself back to Sanctuary. And now that he is in this soul stone that Neyrelle carries, this is his opportunity.
The Herald of Hatred is Mephisto's wolf form. It's this astral projected form that he gets to put out and connect with the player and whisper in people's ears.
The connection between Neyrelle, the player, and Mephisto is the fate of the world. Neyrelle wants to get rid of him, but the more time she spends with the stone, the tighter the bond between her and the stone is.
The corrupting influence of Mephisto's soul stone is going to potentially convince her to bring Mephisto back instead of destroy him like she originally wanted. So we need to actually make sure that she...
Todo mundo nessa merda. Caralho, velho. Eu falei aí, Dante, eu falei do Thunderbolt. Falei pro Duinários.
Neyrelle plans to bring the Soul Stone into the Vault of Light so she can
Tava no mudo essa merda.
of Mephisto's essence.
The Vault of Light is this really sacred place that Akarat
O último trailer dos Tigres eu achei mó legal, viu?
through the history of Sanctuary.
Akarat wandered the world speaking the teachings of the Zakarum faith. His tomb is also said to be in the Vault of Light, which is in Nahatu.
Akarat is the one who discovered the spirit realm. When the World Stone was forged and Sanctuary came out of it, this veil was created, and that's what created the spirit realm. Demons aren't there, angels aren't there. It's a very special place for humanity. And
O reino
for a
espiritual.
long time, the spirit realm was not touched, and now Mephisto's corruption is creeping its way, and that's a fear that everybody in Nahantu is thinking about.
Spirituality is really unique to humanity, and in the jungle, it's a big part of their culture.
Eru is this elder, this magical being, a spirit born, and he's really connected to Nahantu. This is his home, this is his ancestral lineage, and he's guiding the player on this journey to help Neyrelle.
Parece o Chico Anísio.
Find out that there have been sightings of Neyrelle in Nahantu, and we end up following her there.
In Vessel of Hatred, this is a story about isolation. We start off with the concept that Neyrelle is trying to do this alone, but at some point,
Lembra o Witch Doctor mesmo.
things are escalating. And so we morph from this idea of isolation into the idea of being stronger together.
For someone that has been through the journey that our wanderer has, that
Mas se fosse-
has been through, you feel there's hope that Sanctuary is not going to...
O inimigo mascarado, ele chama o Urivar.
See before,
Já falaram dele já.
in that same tone, in that same
Ele é
so much.
ele é um dos sobreviventes da Batalha do Inferno da Igreja da Prava.
Hello, Diablo IV community. Welcome to another Diablo IV developer update. This is a very special Diablo IV developer update, as this is our pre-launch stream before Vessel of Hatred, which is actually going to be shipping here next week, which is crazy to think about. I'm joined here by
Semana que vem.
and game director for Diablo IV. I know before we have our big show, you wanted to talk a little bit about Vessel of Hatred and what's to come.
Yeah, this is a really big week. The fact that we're finally on the doorstep of shipping Vessel of Hatred is...
Dessa vez não meteram atestado de Covid, né?
You know, over the course of the last 5 seasons, so much has changed. And we're excited to talk about some of those details today. Everything kicks off with our epic journey through Nahantu, where we're going to be telling the next chapter of Mephisto. And it doesn't really stop there.
Essa briga é uma maravilha. Posso assistir sem nem olhar pra tela. Mano, eu até às vezes eu esqueço que a galera, tipo, às vezes não
Players who haven't gotten to endgame will get to endgame.
That's awesome.
não tá ligada, não consegue entender.
Ways to play with the Kuros Undercity. We've
Isso a
talked
loja
about
não tem. Eu acho que tem, não tem?
That's super cool. We'll go into more detail on that today. We have our co-op PvE experience with the Dark Citadel. For those hardcore players that like playing with friends, you're going to have something really cool there. And we also have brand new ways of gaining power. Whether you're hiring mercenaries and leveling them up, or finding our new...
O áudio tá bom, gente? Tá ok pra vocês?
To sock it into your gear, you're going to have a lot more ways to actually alter the builds that you've been playing with all this time. So at the end of all this, we have the star of our show, our class that wants to go fast.
Boa, valeu, Antônio.
Which, you know, everybody got a sneak peek at that quite a while ago, and we have been polishing it and getting it ready to make sure that it's the most fun it can be at launch.
Yeah, and it's great because like we're actually going to
Não, relaxa, Charlo. Eu não lembro se eu falei também.
The live
Ultimate não vê e não vê o Game Pass.
subject matter experts across each of them. So
No pós isso nunca aconteceu, porque eu não comprou nada lá.
Vessel of Hatred will actually be shipping and be released to
Você tem
everyone.
que entrar em contato com eles, ô Di.
Out on October 8th, and that is
Yes,
still very much the
still the
plan.
plan.
Still the plan. We actually did release a map earlier this week in our What You Need to Know blog that kind of pretty much contains exactly when
É,
each of the
tipo,
release dates are.
tem como que você recebe lá,
We
sabe?
end up doing early download right now
Yep.
on PC Battle.net. We do have early download coming up for console this weekend on the 5th.
Acho muito bom, eu jogo na Steam, não tem download
A
antecipado.
lot of excitement going on. The other thing that we did talk about as well is Twitch drops. We do have a Twitch drops campaign that is actually starting at the launch of Vessel of Hatred. It's actually going to be starting on October 8th in Pacific time. So it's about like 12, 16 hours, somewhere around there afterwards. But there's some really cool back pieces, really cool weapons that you can earn. And it goes throughout the whole entire month of October through like that first early part of
Cavalinha da. Oh, ficou da hora esse cavalo.
program this time around, which is really cool because Sport a Streamer actually really helps out some of the smaller streamers that are actually really wanting to, stream Diablo 4, which is really great. If you gift 2 subs for, or if you actually purchase 2 subs across any streamer that is streaming across Diablo 4 and has this enabled, you'll end up receiving the mount that we actually just showed right there. And then if you do an additional 2, you actually get the mount armor as well. So,
Cara, eu achei legal esse cavalinho. O cavalinho tem um ossinho na cabeça ali, chamou muito da hora.
Really benefit from some of these programs, and it's great to see all these new faces.
É que é a temática de Naranto, né? A temática eu acho paia, mas...
Next thing we do also want to talk about is a cool promotion that we're actually doing with Trolley here in the US.
Então, né? Isso é muito melhor pra nós, né?
Candy. So they're like sour bright crawlers and things like that. There's actually some really cool weapon skins available if you actually purchase Trolley
Boa, Honey.
here in the
Bem-vindo.
US. We actually have them here on set, but you can see all the cool weapon skins. But if you actually purchase these, and you'll see that they're clearly marked with like Diablo 4, they got the Spiritborn on them, and you can actually end up taking a photo of your receipt, going to a specific site, and then you'll end up getting kind of the rewards in game. And you also have a chance of actually winning an Xbox too, which is really cool. So,
Mas você tem que comprar uma minhoca azeda pra ganhar um negócio. Tô fora.
titles, including like World of Warcraft, for instance, because this was actually going on with the War Within here at Blizzard. So yeah, like if you're in the US, look for Trolley products. Thankfully, we have a whole bunch of bags here, so expect me to actually be eating these throughout the stream.
We've had like 7 bags in the last 2 days.
Yeah, as we've been like prepping for the stream, like this has been my whole entire diet. Actually, no, I've been eating normal food, but at the same time, this is like my kryptonite right here. So expect me to be eating these throughout the stream. It's my favorite stream because we have snacks now, so I'm like, this is perfect. This is perfect. But one thing, again, we wanted to mention, which is the release date. And I think we have a release date map here. So yeah, as you guys can see, on October 7th in Irvine at 4 p.m. Pacific, or Pacific time, or
É 8 da noite aqui.
is when the actual expansion is going to be launching. This is a global launch, so everyone is coming out at the same time. The world is round, so you can't get everyone in on October 8th, so that's why there's some in on October 7th, but we wanted to make sure that we could get as many people in on October 8th, and of course a little earlier on October 7th, but everyone's coming out at the exact same time. So looking forward to everyone jumping in. We do have an action-packed show today, a lot of stuff to cover. We are going to be hitting up on the patch 2.0 PTR changes first.
Mudanças da PTR, essa é a parte que a gente quer saber.
So many things to share. I will note, this is our 20th
Será que usar VPN dá pra jogar mais cedo? Não, né? Porque é lançamento global.
we've ever done, which is really cool. And this is also our first time we're actually streaming on TikTok. We already stream on X, we stream on Twitch, and we stream on YouTube. So this is kind of a nice momentous occasion. But because of how much content we have and how many guests we have, we are going to say that we will have some small little breaks while we actually mic new people up, bring them into the studio, and then swap them out for other things. But we are going to be talking first about patch 2.0 PTR and the feedback that we actually received from players. And then separately, we're also going to be talking about Season 6, Season of Hatred Rising. And separately, we will finish off the show with all the Vessel of Hatred features and going into a little bit more of a deeper dive, something that you were talking about, Brent. So.
Oh, yeah.
Lança dia 7, às 8, Rosário, segunda-feira.
Yeah,
So
exactly. You're gonna see multiple levels of people in the studio. So we're gonna take a quick.
Arruma uns jogos pra resgatar, mano. Eu tenho que ou acabar com essa loja ou colocar mais coisa lá, Odi.
Back overview. So we'll see you in a bit.
Inácio é tão amado por aqui porque a estátua dele ele nem tá no foco, só da Leitian, normal, né? Léo, manda no Discord. Porque se eu colocar qualquer link aí, o negócio vai pro vinagre, tá? E já vou chegar no trampo e avisar que não veio trabalhar na terça. Nada mais justo. O efeito de som aí. Cara, eu odeio essas coisas, mano. Porque assim, eu até entendo que, tipo, que é uma maneira da galera, tipo assim, interagir com o streamer e tudo mais. Mas às vezes, eu não quero interação. Testado é a partir de terça, gente. Porque o jogo sai segunda à noite. Então terça-feira você tá meio mal, entendeu?
Awesome.
Outra porra, colocaram 200 pessoas ali. Muito boa tarde.
We're going to be doing this a couple times throughout this stream, but we're here to talk
Terá
about
tatuagem do lado espírito no outro pulso, nem fodendo.
2.0 PTR, which we had earlier this month.
Pelo que eles me mostraram, o lado espírito não é pra mim, não.
PTRs have been great for us since we've started actually hosting them for Diablo 4, and of course this one was a very, very big.
Estão fazendo escadinha, já daqui a pouco eles fazem a ola ali, mano.
Season 6, but I know we want to jump right.
Caganeira dá 2 dias de atestado no SUS. O problema é você levar um atestado de caganeira, né?
About some progression changes.
Yes, I am. So like you said, Adam, let's jump.
Oh, you actually, before we do that, sorry. I just realized no one knows who we are.
Oh yeah,
I mean, they know who I am. There we go. There, I was just like, wait a minute. Of course, we have some familiar faces, but if you guys want to do quick intros,
Yeah. Hi, I'm Colin. I'm a lead designer.
Hey, I'm Aislinn. I'm a systems designer.
Hi, I'm Charles. I'm a class designer.
Hey y'all, I'm Anthony. I'm an associate class designer.
Awesome. Great. There we go. Now we got everyone settled. Aislinn, do you want to talk about some of the progression changes?
Yes,
Tá no lugar errado.
absolutely.
Pô, tô no lugar errado mesmo.
Adam, like you said, the PTR has been just fantastic for us. It's given us so much data, and the feedback you guys give is just pivotal to us launching in the state we want to see the game in. And you know, everyone wants to see the game in. And so, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about some changes we've made because of it. So first of all, monster intensity. Something we saw because people weren't noticing the changes in monster intensity because people were skipping through difficulties.
A intensidade é a...
Monster intensity from scaling over...
É qual agressiva e IA fica.
To scaling over Torment 1 through 4. Because you're going to be progressing through torments a little bit slower, so you're going to be able to feel the intensity changes, I think, a little more potently.
Então...
A bit more jumps, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
O jogo foi de vala mesmo. Ah, não, tô só esperando o necromante aparecer.
Just become a little bit more reliable in their damage.
Right.
They start to predict your movement a little bit more on the projectiles.
Yes.
It's not a massive change, but it should sort of make the monsters feel a little bit more aggressive and dangerous.
Yeah, they just become a little more lethal, I think, ultimately, beyond, numerical changes. Second up I want to talk about is one that I'm really, really happy and excited about, actually, is that elites, unique elites, and super elites are 3 different types of elites you can actually fight.
Tem elite,
if you know that or
elite
not,
único
that's a thing.
e super elite. Eu não sabia de super elite.
They all did very different amounts of damage from one another. Like, for example, a super elite might deal actually 2 times the amount of damage of a normal elite. And what that was causing was when an elite spawned an affix, like lightning enchanted, or poison, or whatever, the super elites would do 2 times more damage with those affixes, but you didn't really have any way to tell. right? There was no way to tell if an affix was spawned by an elite or a super elite. And so kind of seemingly randomly, an affix might deal 2 times more damage to you out of nowhere.
Ah, tá. Então o que aconteceu?
The damage that all of these
Tinha os elites que causavam muito mais dano e você não sabia por que você morria.
The affixes that they're spewing out, you can expect the damage you're going to receive. Like,
Tem que dar um slowdown no level, não, Soldado, nem começa essa briga,
way
velho.
more consistent, way more predictable, which is really
Eu
helpful for
concordo,
not getting
mas nem começa.
Our favorites, those.
Yeah. And then finally, on difficulty, we have some changes to standard difficulty tiers. We know some of you guys are looking for a challenge, so let's take a look at what a challenge looks like.
Mudaram as dificuldades, ó. Vamos lá.
Right, so we have a level 1 character here in Kiovashad going to the statue to change their difficulty. So what are they going to change it to? Well, before they could access normal, hard, and expert, but now they can access Penitent at level
Olha, penitente já pode ser liberado desde o começo.
Why would you play anything else?
Yes. So you have to beat the base campaign on your account once, and then you can go into Penitent, and let's see how that turns out for this person. Oh yeah,
I'm
you
sure
know,
it's
just
going
an
great.
Helltide.
Just a few a few too many demons.
Just a couple few too many.
Era mago, né?
Yeah.
Mythic uniques.
So, so you can do Penitent at level 1 now. It's pretty hard, guys. So if you plan to go in at level 1, be prepared. But seriously, we know people really wanted to be able to push their builds as far as they could, as early as they could.
Yeah.
And now you can. So whenever you feel like you're ready for Penitent during your leveling journey, hop in there and
Vou
see
sofrer, mas vou descer o cacete do
One of
penitente.
the biggest points of feedback we got during this PTR, which was like, hey, we would like to see if Penitent wasn't like gated way further down.
Solução, não joga de mago.
And so it's now available at level 1. And, you know, as we've shown in the footage, it can be difficult. But I think what's nice is, like, if someone creates alts and they end up, you know, finding a bunch of mythic uniques and stuff which you can use at earlier levels, you then can at least potentially start off in Penitent a little bit earlier and you know, stay with a higher difficulty in that type of way, which is nice.
Oh, yeah.
We really want to embrace like the sort of choose your difficulty that we really liked with the mine cages in season 5, 4, and 5. And again, like to your point, alts just are able to speed run their way to max level, right, by playing at a really hard difficulty.
Exactly.
So it should feel a lot better.
And it feels great to just hop into Penitent early, like when you're capable of doing it.
does,
It's
yeah.
just awesome.
Yeah, we don't necessarily expect
Hey.
everyone to play at Penitent. It's really hard to play at
It is hard.
at
It
your
is
own
hard.
risk. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, your character needs to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Como eu comi japonês no dia anterior, parte da tarde.
So we got a lot
Aí
of
vocês falam madrugada, começou a ter enjoo, vou aumentar.
you
Ah.
were, you know, starting that ancestral grind. You were stuck with these non-ancestral items for a pretty long time, and we do like that. But we know that people want to see the journey for those non-ancestral items to be a little punchier. And so we've made some targeted changes here to ensure that non-ancestral legendaries have more, punch to them.
Ó, o Masterwork agora vai até o
Increasing the
8.
amount of masterworking you can
Que não é
put on
ancestral, no caso.
legendary from 4 to 8. We are also allowing
Mano, vai. Os caras vão ligar o penitente, vão morrer tudo.
Were exclusive to ancestral items, but now non-ancestrals can go up to that. Additionally, we saw that people were going to like the boss ladder, or they were just finding uniques out in the world, and they didn't drop it didn't feel like they were dropping as ancestral as often as they should have.
Right, because they're so rare.
Right, they're so rare, and you know you want finding a unique item to be an exciting moment, and so we've tripled the chance for them to drop as ancestral, and this should help a lot, especially during the boss ladder. You know, when you're killing these uber bosses and they're dropping lots of uniques, a lot more of them are going to turn out to be.
Dó a droga, você vai fazer hardcore no penitente, mano.
Once you're starting in
Eu queria ver isso aí.
60, you have a lot more progression on your equipment that sort of bridges the gap to ancestral. We also heard a lot of feedback that second tempered affix really is what enables your build to come online, and that's what we're trying to do with this system of ancestral, is that you can get your build online.
Yeah.
But
Essencialmente, praticamente voltou tudo que nem era na temporada 5,
so
né?
that like not having that second tempered affix and not having those 8 masterwork ranks really sort of hindered your ability to get that build online, to get into the fun and start blasting.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because we don't want you to feel like you have to find ancestrals.
Desculpa, gente, eu tô cansadão.
And you know, this change is working towards making that true.
Definitely. So you still have those items you can chase, but you can still get those endgame builds online pretty quickly.
Yep, for sure. And finally, on itemization, we are adding some Scrolls of Restoration to the Season Journey. The Scrolls of Restoration are
O pergaminho da restauração é aquele que restaura a têmpera do seu item.
The tempering chances on an item. And we wanted to add these to the Season Journey so you could just have a couple of deterministic ways to acquire them and use them on your gear.
And this, of course, is not the only place you can earn these Scroll of Restorations. You know, you can earn them throughout the world. There's a small drop chance, and we'll be actually talking about another way of earning them later on as well.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that I'm excited about on the unique changes, if you equate greater affixes in Season 5 to Ancestral, you're actually going to have a higher chance to get an Ancestral unique compared to getting a greater affix on a unique than live, right? So it means that uniques are really exciting. You might actually get like the Staff of Endless Rage, for example. Maybe you're not playing a Fireball Sork, but now you're like, oh, well, I have an Ancestral version of this unique.
That's huge.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
So really like,
Eles estão melhorando os drops dos únicos ancestral.
those uniques sometimes being a lot more powerful.
Yeah, no, it's we want that moment when you see a unique on the ground to be really fun and exciting, and seeing it drop as an ancestral with greater affixes is about as exciting as it gets for uniques. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's talk about some player power changes based on PTR feedback. So I want to start by framing goals for Torment difficulties. So Torment 1, we want all content to be available in the game. You can fight Lilith, you can fight the boss ladder, you can go to the Dark Citadel, you know, etc. All these activities are available. Torment 4 is intended to be aspirational content. And what that means is you've already unlocked everything in the game when you enter Torment 1. But Torment 4 is like the essence
T4 é pro masoquista, gente.
where you're just pushing your character as far as you can go. In Torment 4,
Meu, na PTR, ô Guto, não, caía único, mas não caía ancestral. Entendeu?
And with that said, and the reason why
Agora, o problema não é nem o único, o problema era o mítico.
Way faster and way easier.
Que era mais fácil de achar do que os ancestral.
Which is just another great, like, it's great that we did the PTR because we saw that. And with that all said, we've made some changes to kind of keep Torment 4 this, you know, really challenging and exciting.
Só nerf nessa bagaça.
We've reverted the skill damage bonus from main stat back to what it was in Season 5. So we had actually doubled it in the PTR, but we found that was just giving players too much power.
Too much.
So we sent it back.
Reduziram. Então, exato. O ancestral tava difícil.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we reduced the scaling on the glyphs quite a bit because we found that it was really devaluing a lot of the aspect rolls or rolls on your gear. Like when you're getting 2,000 additive damage from a glyph, it's really hard to actually feel anything on your gear.
Olha, da PTR, eles diminuíram a...
So essentially what we've done is pare that back. We've redistributed it. We'll cover that a little bit on like where we put some of that power. But overall, we think this feels a lot better. Glyphs aren't just carrying like 80% of your power on a build. And it just feels a lot better so that it doesn't feel as...
Você tem que saber pedir, Soulzarion. Se vocês falam, eu quero mais difícil, os caras, então toma mais difícil.
It's a lot more about what are the aspects you have, what are the uniques you have, what are the nodes you're actually getting on the Paragon board. I think it feels a lot better.
Yeah, and like I think one of the important things to say about this
Mas a melhor coisa que eu gostei dessa nova versão
tremendous amount of power from one source.
é que T1 não é impossível.
Different sources of power in the game.
E lá você faz tudo. Então você não precisa se matar no T4 se você não quiser.
So we want to make sure that every source of power in the game is contributing to your build in very meaningful ways. And so this change is helping other sources of power feel really punchy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. I know tons of changes here with player power. Tons of changes.
Glifos foram nerfados pra cacete.
Do we have anything else on progression? Or
I think one thing I think that's really important to touch on is the torment goals here, right? Because it's a definite fundamental shift from Season 5 in that you think about World Tier 3 into World Tier 4 and you're sort of racing to get
Vai ter vídeo resumão? Provável, Guto.
because that's where all the best items can drop.
Yeah.
And we've sort of just changed that to
Torment 1
is where all the best items can drop. It's where everything
Tô pensando...
but essentially Torment 2, 3, and 4 increase the odds of
Dividir.
those things happening. So it's just efficiency.
Não sei.
We don't necessarily want to say you must get to Torment 4.
Não, os glifos da PTR estavam muito fortes, o Soulzarion.
Similar to World Tier 4 and Season 5, it's very different feeling.
Lembra que tu botei T4, tomei hit kill, voltei pro T2. Não, mas o bom é você mantenha onde você acha que é bom para armar. Você não precisa ir no T4.
Can be found in Torment 1. So if that's where your build feels most comfortable farming, that's great. You can still achieve all your goals. You can really max out your character there. It just, you get
É que eu vou anunciar um PTR pra quem tem expansão essa semana.
more
Tá
efficient.
ligado que lança na segunda, né, Odi?
Towards Torment 4, the means to, or like the space to be really hard. Is because you don't have to get there. And so it can be really, really
É, não, daqui a pouco o Bárbaro pode usar 8 armas, ô Antônio.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, I know.
Ah, a gente nerfou os glifos. Pra compensar, agora você pode usar uma arma de 4 mãos.
Actually coming with Vessel of Hatred, and also changes that we're applying post PTR from things that we actually learned. Colin, you want to walk us through and start us off with some of the Paragon stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Paragon.
We got a ton of feedback from the PTR, and we took a look at Paragon. That was one of the bigger changes that we made, where we capped the boards, because we feel like that gives us a lot more space to increase the power of each of these boards and make the choice more about what is the board you're looking for. So what we've done here is we've added a bunch of normal nodes, so those are things like stats that empower those glyphs, to upgrade that legendary.
Oh, melhorou bastante coisa,
Kind
hein?
of sad, like there weren't actually a lot of nodes.
Deixa o meu Bárbaro.
Sort of build up that Paragon, that extra.
Não, eu deixo e a Blizzard também.
Legendary. So we've done that. We added around 8 to every board, and then the starting
O
board.
jogo não tava ligado que você tava brincando, né?
Just because, the starting board should feel really good with that first glyph. The next thing we've done is we've taken a look at a lot of the rare and magic nodes, and we've just made them generically more useful. So you think about like two-handed bludgeoning damage on the barbarian is like, okay, like I guess I can only benefit if I'm doing this one very specific thing. And we've just opened that up to say damage, right? That's going to scale everything across your character as opposed to like while you're
Nódulos amarelos, né? Tipo, e os azuis agora são mais genéricos.
Sort of taking a look at what are the affixes we're giving, like fucking potion healing. I know you're all going to be really sad.
That's my favorite
I
stuff.
know you're all super sad to see
You're
that
the only one.
we've taken
Tiraram as porcaria, né?
just changed it to healing received. We've also just taken a look at things like damage reduction from dots and made it damage reduction. So it should be a lot more generically useful, and those boards should feel a lot more punchy and open-ended, which we really like. And that's sort of doubling down on the spirit of what we've done with Season 4 atomization, right? Just sort of taking back some of these conditional things that aren't necessarily adding a ton of value to your build identity. Just open
Vai virar tipo uma Zelda. O Bárbaro vai amarrar uma máxima espada, vai amarrar uma.
power on those glyphs. And we've taken a look at all of our nodes, all of magic and rare nodes, and we've just buffed all of them. So we've doubled all the additive bonuses on rare and magic nodes. We've increased the damage reduction values by about 1.5x, so they should feel a lot more chunky. And as you're jumping Paragon, right, it should feel like you have more options than to just bum rush every glyph, socket, and every legendary node. There should be some pretty
Então,
punchy,
teoricamente,
damage sources
com esses
you can
buffs,
get,
o que eles querem fazer?
sources you can get. We've also done things
Impedir que você só saia correndo atrás de glifo.
resistance nodes you have on the Paragon board actually give max resistance as well now, so it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of changes there. So this is one of the first steps we're taking to really improve the Paragon system with the new sort of philosophy of like, we want you to pick what boards you want, and we expect to be updating more in the future.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that
E ainda vão mexer no Paragon Board,
It's
gostei.
really fun for all of your sources of power to be meaningful. And so we're basically just taking like the tons and tons of power that was in glyphs and kind of slightly redistributing it to Paragon. So going through your Paragon board is just more interesting and fun.
Definitely. Cool.
Next up, we got, I think, Infernal Hordes.
Hordas infernais, ó, não tinha na PTR, né?
Infernal Hordes was under construction during the PTR as we were fitting in, like, how does this going to work with the greater equipment chest, turning into ancestral items. And there are 3 things that we really wanted to tackle as a part of this release, right? Infernal Hordes is an eternal game mode, so we wanted to take the learnings.
Na temporada 5, as hordas
This next update. So
era literalmente a melhor coisa pra fazer, né?
was just dominating the reward landscape here, like getting 200 legendaries from one source of activity is cool for Season 5, and it's the brand new activity for Season 5. That's awesome, but we wanted to just readjust it, refit it back in. We still have the Codex of Power that lets you store all these legendary powers, so we felt like we wanted to take more of a quality over quantity approach here. And one of the things that was sort of frustrating about that quality miss was that you didn't really have a way to reliably target those unique items that were coming out of Infernal Hordes. If you think about it, you had to open a chest and just hope that you were going to get one of the unique items out of this chest. And that sort of led to a frustrating and tedious reward flow where you're just constantly opening up these 28th chests over and over and over. I know I've spent, probably more time opening the material chest than actually.
I mean, I think that's everyone's favorite pastime of just like running around the material chest.
Waiting for the cooldown on the chest, like, oh my god, just give me more shit.
Eles mudaram
So we've
as recompensas.
How we're going to actually deliver these keys. We've taken them out of the crafting system, but they're not too rare. They're just uncommonly found throughout the world. We want this to be like an oh shit moment when the key drops, just because you're going to get a ton of XP from killing the hordes, you're going to get a ton of materials and a ton
As hordas, teoricamente, não, tipo, não dá mais pra fabricar, né? Você só dropa a chave.
Inventory as much, and you really want to use them when you get them. So the next part here is, if we could go back to the slide, if we could go to Infernal Hordes.
There we go.
The council boss, no matter what, as long as you kill that council, they're going to drop dungeon boss loot, which is going to be legendaries, crafting materials, gold, etc., on top of the Infernal Horde unique items, and that's going to scale with Torment. So guaranteed, every single time you kill that council, you are going to get unique items that are specific to Infernal Hordes.
That's great, because those Infernal Horde uniques are pretty sick.
Definitely. So no more waiting.
Então a gente já sabe onde farmar, não precisa ir atrás do baú.
Okay, I want to get Infernal Horde unique items.
Você vai lá, enche o conselho de porrada e você já ganha os seus itens.
And then the next thing here is we've updated the chests. So the chests of greater equipment are going to drop those scrolls of restoration or retempering. So you're going to be able to get them reliably from the Infernal Hordes.
Olha, o pergaminho da retempera tá
And then we've also
disponível na horda.
Some amount of ancestral items from that greater equipment chest, and ancestral items are very much more coveted than just greater affix items, so that should feel pretty meaty. And then the chest of materials is now just going to convert all your aether into materials. You don't have to like constantly open the chest. Turn it into a bunch of masterworking materials, gems. It should feel a lot more snappy and less time looting, more time playing.
Agora é material e gold, você vai lá e tudo.
Just gives you punch.
Next up, I know we have the.
Só tem baú pelo jeito, né?
We kind of spoiled it.
So
we can just skip this because everyone's already
seen it. Ancestral cai de Nightmare Dungeon e de Whisper. Cara, Whisper eu acho ótimo, mano.
Increase the ancestral drop rate from Nightmare Dungeons and Whispers. Thank you to the person who ran 1,000 Nightmare Dungeons.
Oh my god.
Definitely fixed the problem there, and that should feel a lot more rewarding. We've also added just experience to the Nightmare Dungeon completion, which just feels also while you're leveling up. It's like a pretty good hit.
Masmorra do Pesadelo também.
We've also done miscellaneous buffs to just miscellaneous things. So Hellborn will drop loot. Butcher is going to drop a guaranteed axe, I believe, a Butcher's axe. The World Boss, Treasure Goblins, those are all going to drop a lot better loot. It's also going to scale with Torment, which should feel good.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for these, like, I guess the Hellborn's not exactly a random encounter, not just the World Boss, but like the Butcher and the Treasure Goblin, these like big meaty encounters, like it makes sense for like these to occur, and you're like, give me like good loot, because this is uncommon. This doesn't happen that frequently. I want it to be amazing.
It's an exciting moment, and the loot should reflect that.
Yeah.
I love that loot explosion.
Yeah, with the Treasure Goblin.
Yeah.
Nothing beats finding a Treasure Goblin at like level 5. And just chasing it around using your like basic.
Butcher or World Boss
drops legendary no matter what level you are, so it should feel pretty good. The next thing here is we really love how players, or how you all have sort of
reduziram o Stronghold, velho.
We've actually just done that across the game. So campaign feels really good in terms of experience granted. Side quests should feel really good, especially in Nahon 2. But what we saw with the Stronghold experience in the PTR is that 2 levels felt a little bit aggressive and like sort of forced you to do Strongholds over and over and over. We've just pared that back down to 1.25 levels, which is still really meaty. Like you're getting an entire level from doing these. It's really fulfilling what we had hoped Strongholds.
As fortalezas agora te dão nível garantido.
You want to ride around the open world and do a bunch of strongholds? That's absolutely a viable way to level up now. We think that like all the quest content in general just feels a lot better because we're a lot more generous there. The other change I'll note here is that a bulk of that experience is going to be from killing the boss, and it's a first-time reward. So that means you're not going to be able to sort of, cheese running strongholds over and over and over.
Thank you, Rax, for showing that with your friends from your chat.
Não dá mais pra ficar farmando o stronghold dos outros.
Hey, it was a good video. I mean, in all fairness.
Cool. And then the next one here is we heard a ton of feedback that rare and magic items just felt like they're adding a lot of noise to Torment. We're dropping a lot more of them. Now they just get auto-salvaged in Torment. Hooray. So,
Get them out of here.
Yeah, get them out.
Não cai mais itens que não é lendário no T1.
Now drop from the pit. So when you're doing a bunch of pit runs, you're also going to be getting glyphs. It just means you don't really have to go out and do other things if you have a bunch of keys for the pit.
Yeah, I mean that's really nice too because theoretically you could enter the pit and not actually have a glyph, but now you will. So you can find one and level up if that's what happens.
Awesome, and I know last but not least we have kind of itemization and craft. This is some big stuff here that I know will excite players for sure.
Yeah, so one of the things we've heard a ton from the player base and you all is that I wish.
Peraí, mudou muita coisa.
Deterministically, if I do everything in a season, if I kill Uber Lilith, if I do the season's journey, I want to be able to get a mythic unique. And we saw this as an opportunity to essentially create an identity between the rune crafting of mythic uniques and the blacksmith. We moved it from the alchemist to the blacksmith version of crafting mythic uniques. So now what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to take 2 resplendent sparks to the blacksmith and get a random mythic unique. That means no matter what, as long as you do everything in the season, you're going to get a mythic unique. And if you take those resplendent sparks and you decide, I really want a specific mythic unique, you'll be able to take a set of runes and actually pick which one.
Right.
And what that does is the runes are a lot more flexible. They can be traded.
Ai, vai ter porra, vou, cara.
Mythic unique or sparks in general. So what this means is you now have 2 really clear means to sort of target mythic unique.
No ferreiro, você faz Uber aleatório.
End of a season, which we think will feel really good.
No joalheiro, você faz Uber que você quer.
Trade value, which I kind of love.
Yeah.
Like they have this big purpose towards crafting one of the best items in the game, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I finally can get my Starless Skies.
Yeah.
Cool. And then the next one here is you're going to be getting a lot of salvage in Torment because everything's getting auto-salvaged. So we figured, you know what, we should probably give you some purpose and value to that salvage. And now you can take it to the blacksmith and forge random legendary equipment at the blacksmith.
Yeah, this is huge.
I love this change.
And it also has a chance to be unique or mythic and sometimes ancestral. So it's
No ferreiro o custo será o mesmo? 2 faíscas.
the salvage that you have. And then the next one here is more just sort of a quality of life and nicety. We added
Lá não, é muito provavelmente live só segunda mesmo.
Yeah.
We just allowed you to add sockets to gear with just the general salvage material. You don't need scattered prisms anymore. Scattered prisms are required for ancestral items.
Como a gente vai ter as runas para colocar
and then the next one
slot agora é material normal.
Characters, but the jeweler no longer has a level requirement to engage with the jeweler. Previously on the PTR, you had to trade gear to your main character, add a socket. It was super tedious, and we just made it not like that.
Awesome. So tons of big changes coming across a multitude of systems within.
Muita mudancinha legal.
From all the players within the community, content creators, etc. So thank you guys so much for that. Thank you, Colin, for walking us through that. Next up, we want to talk about some of the class changes and everything. And so Charles here is going to walk us through it.
Yeah.
Mudanças de classe.
Changes that we saw in the PTR. Once again, I wanted to thank all of you
Nerfal Bárbaro.
who gave a lot of detailed feedback, a lot of data on how classes were performing, all the different builds, and the new items, new effects, and all that kind of stuff, new skills. It's been really helpful in helping to make sure that we make all our class designs as fun and engaging as possible.
Todo mundo aí tem cara que joga de bárbaro.
Is huge. There's lots of changes. As I said, a lot of new class stuff, but a lot of new system stuff across the whole game. And so we do expect some level of volatility.
Quantos buffs no bárbaro?
When a lot of things change, there's a lot of unknowns, and so that's just the mindset we're approaching this patch with. And what I'm going to be talking about here is not a complete detailed list of everything that we've changed from the PTR to live. It's just kind of some samples and kind of talking through our learnings and what we saw on the class design team and what we're thinking about. And so make sure you check out the full patch notes once we're done with this.
Mago tá OP? Buff no bárbaro. Muito
a
isso.
lot of the changes came
Essa é a
in
lógica.
initially, so definitely check out those if you're unfamiliar, because there's tons of class changes there as well.
Oh yeah.
So starting with the Barbarian, we generally saw that Barbarian class was a little bit too weak on the PTR, and I think even on
Bárbaro tava fraco na PTR.
considered a little too weak. Historically,
Mano, o Bárbaro tava fazendo dungeon parado.
Seasons, it's fallen a little bit on harder times. So a lot of our focus here is buffs to some underutilized skills and legendaries and uniques. So we've got updates to Upheaval to make it just a little bit more punchy.
Mano, os caras têm problema, velho.
We've got updates to some of the uniques that talk to other core skills, like Hammer of the Ancients and Double Swing, to give them a little bit more damage boost as well.
Velho, eu tô escutando.
Vigor passive. That is a passive in the skill tree that gives you some damage reduction from elite enemies, including bosses. And it might seem pretty small on
Mano, deram trem bolona pro Bárbaro. Por quê?
every
Mano,
skill rank you have in that, you get
pouco, né, velho?
And really, when you're fighting the late game tormented bosses and high torment tiers, it's going to be a pretty noticeable amount of survivability against those boss fights for
O
Barbarian.
Bárbaro não tava matando o Berlite no nível 10. Temos que buffar urgente.
So for sure.
Absolutely. Moving on to the Druid.
Eu não tô acreditando. Real,
A
cara.
little bit on the weaker end of the classes. I think there was a few bugs on the PTR that we're addressing as we go live, where some of their effects, specifically in the Paragon and some of the key passives, weren't quite working exactly how we intended. So they might have been a little bit weaker.
Por que não buffar o Bárbaro, né?
So we're definitely addressing those. I also wanted to talk about Nature's Fury. This is a key passive that whenever you cast an Earth or Storm skill, there's a chance to cast the same skill to cast a skill of the opposite type. And this was causing some unintended interactions with one of the unique items, the Earthbreaker ring, that ended up proccing or triggering Nature's Fury way more often than we intended. That's because we have this concept of cast.
Nerfaram o negócio. Nerfaram não, né? Corrigiram.
And then, hey, you did one cast. And whenever we do something like auto casts, which is like, hey, I triggered a free skill with Nature's Fury, that shouldn't kind of recursively trigger or trigger the other effects that are looking for casts. But in that particular interaction it was, and so we've fixed that.
Magra com cara de passa fome, você acha um personagem que ele quer. Bem isso.
And the things affected in that build.
As classes estão fracas, vamos buffar o Bárbaro, muito isso.
Kind of things, especially landslide builds that use this a lot.
É tudo pelo balanço do jogo, é.
Forward. But we just didn't want that one particular unintended interaction to be happening.
And that kind of overshines, all the builds, right? When you have like one build that's, crazy over, the top. So
exactly, yeah. Especially whenever there's one build that's so dominant, it really makes it feel like, hey, I'm playing the class wrong if I'm not doing this, and that's not something that we want. We want you to be able to play all the different ways of playing the classes and feel like it's a valid and viable choice to compete or to complete the game. Some of the other changes on Druid as well, we've got
Arthur pensou errado.
Great Staff of the Crone. This is one of my favorite items that lets your Claw and Storm Strike build kind of synergize really nicely. We've got just a lot more damage on Werewolf skills through the Lust for Carnage Paragon node, basically the same functionality, but just added 50% bonus damage there. We saw Werewolf was particularly falling behind.
Estão bufando os lobisomens, deixa eu puxar pra cá.
Legendary Paragon node. This is the new one that talks to companion skills. Previously, it just gave skill ranks, which kind of fell off as you got a lot of skill ranks. Now it's just multiplicative damage, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some companion druids in the new season, especially with the new key passive. All right, moving on to the Necromancer. So the
Parece que a Lux só fica balançando a cabeça.
A lot of variety for like blood, bone, and shadow builds. A lot of those were competing very well, but Necromancer.
A Blizzard não viu muito Bárbaro no topo da PTR, né?
We saw minion builds really falling behind from where we want.
Ô, louco. Build de minion pra trás?
The
Não.
most appealing part of a Necromancer. And so on the class design team, we're really committed to making sure that minion Necromancer is good, and we're going
Mano, o
to
problema não é
see some massive buffs
o
to this
necromante, o problema é a IA dos minions, cara.
that the minion fantasy is really a powerful and compelling one. We also saw that Necromancer was one of the squishier classes. It had a little bit less defensive oomph than we really wanted. And so we've made some updates here.
Fortitude necrótica, o edito de Calã.
Damage reduction just makes that a little bit
Decreto de Calã, né?
that function. Same with Necrotic Fortitude, gives a little bit more barrier. This is kind of a passive barrier generation, so just a little bit more survivability in that late game. And then the rest of it here is just talking about minion buffs, right? We've got Kalen's Edict, the key passive. This is going to, previously it just gave you attack speed for your minions. Now it's also going to give you bonus multiplicative damage for all your minions. a bunch of the legendaries and uniques that talked to minions, like Ring of Mendeln and Shade Mist. That damage is now properly attributed to your minions rather than the Necromancer themselves, which means if you have bonus Golem damage, for instance, and your Golem triggers Ring of Mendeln, it's now going to benefit properly, and it's going to be multiplied up by those
Ah, o Anel de Mendel deu uma bufada.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Na temporada 5 tava horrível. O Necro era a pior classe da temporada 5.
So, moving on, we've got next class, we'll talk about the Rogue.
Finalmente, né? Só demorou 5 temporadas, Arthur.
Performing pretty well across the board in the PTR.
Então, não, a IA dos Minions é horrível. E assim, não é o problema que causa pouco dano, coisa, é que a IA não vai pra onde você quer.
Dance of Knives.
Já falaram do Bárbaro? Puta que pariu, já era.
Was really happy with where Dance of Knives landed.
Bufaram os Bárbaros, cara.
A lot of use in a variety of builds, and people have a lot of fun playing with it. We did notice a little bit of the melee focused builds with Flurry and Twisting Blades falling behind just a little bit. So a few of our changes here are focused on enhancing the legendaries that talk to those two, Encircling Blades and Blade Dancers. In terms of key passives, we saw Victimize did have a bug that caused its damage scaling to be higher than intended. And so we have fixed that math calculation on how it kind of scales down.
Vitimizar tava com problema. Bárbaro foi equilibrado.
And now we think with this update, it'll still be a competitive choice, but it won't completely outshine every other key passive on the Rogue. And some nice little buffs here to Rain of Arrows, just to make it work a little bit better with imbuement skills. Love me some Rain of Arrows. It's a very flashy skill, especially with all those colors with the imbuements on it. All right, and finally, the Sorcerer.
Maguinho de Lixeira.
The strongest class.
Pô, só 5 temporadas pedindo pra melhorar o Anel de Mendel.
Just a little bit, you know?
It was quite strong. People were having a lot of fun with Sorcerer.
Blade Dancer bufado.
Especially with the new key passive Enlightenment. And Enlightenment had an issue where it's all about alternating skill casts. So, okay, you cast a fire skill, you cast a lightning skill, you cast a cold skill, and you get these stacks really quickly. Unfortunately, it was stacking up unintentionally from some of those auto casts that we were talking about earlier with Nature's Fury.
5 minutinhos.
When you trigger bonus casts from like unstable currents, it was actually ramping up the Enlightenment way too fast. And so we fixed that interaction, but we think despite that, Enlightenment is still one of the strongest key passives to sort. So it's just brings it down a little bit, but we still think this is going to be really
new Mago
passive to play with once we go live. 2 other changes here with the Flamescar and Oculus uniques. This is kind of adding in this chance to deal double damage affixes for Incinerate and Teleport respectively. This harkens back to what I talked about on the PTR stream, where we're adding these multiplicative damage bonuses into tempering for weapons. And of course, we can't temper onto unique items, but for a lot of the unique items that are about very specific skills, such as Flamescar and Oculus, we've taken a pass to add in some of these affixes that enhance those skills in multiplicative ways to really make sure that, you know, Incinerate gets the same benefit from using that unique as opposed to just a legendary that you would temper this affix onto anyway.
It's a massive buff.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely massive.
Size is like, I like pull out a ruler, like, is it actually? Is it working?
O lobo do druida agora morde.
Incinerate size and teleport size maybe not the most compelling affix. Now you just.
Não tô preocupado com o druida, que eu tô preocupado com o bárbaro.
Make an Oculus build where most of the damage comes from teleport. That's going to be awesome. We'll see if you can manage to make that work.
Yeah, I love that idea. Oh my god.
I already have a build page saved.
Ooh,
yeah.
I have to see that. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, once again, I just wanted to thank everyone for all the great feedback. We on the class design team,
O que eles fizeram com o bárbaro? Trembolona.
On how you're playing the classes, what builds you're finding fun, what things are over or underpowered.
Daqui a pouco até o bárbaro morde.
We watch the videos that you make. We really appreciate all of it, and it really helps us to make the game as best as possible.
Awesome.
E com absurdo da habilidade.
For all the changes coming for class design. It's actually not all the changes that we saw right here. As Charles mentioned, we do have patch notes actually going live after this stream.
Tem patch notes ainda.
You will see 2.0.1 patch notes, and you'll see 2.0.2 patch notes. So there's 202 and 201. 202 is actually not on like people's PCs yet. You haven't preloaded that. That is going to be the last update you'll need to grab before
Deixa o Bárbaro quieto, né?
launch for Vessel of Hatred. But you
Saiu de 1 trilhão e pouco pra 1 bilhão. Realmente foi um baita do nerf.
that we didn't cover and all the ins and outs of it between now and what we had for PTR. So last but not least,
Normal, Elite, Super Elite, Uber e Bárbaro.
we're going to jump straight into it. So Anthony, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, awesome feedback. We got lots of different things that came in, and we've heard multiple times a couple different things with the rune words that really just people kept repeating over.
Oi, não tinha reparado na Soulstone ali, Kaliel.
Major issues with the whole system, and so previously we had on the PTR. We had the legendary runes that were a lot stronger, you know, because you want to reach that point eventually to where you get the powerful runes and then you play the game that way.
Sim, tinha umas runas que era bosta.
Outshining a lot of the other possibilities and like the idea that we had with the runes where you're mixing and matching, creating different combinations. So what we are ending up doing now is we are taking that top end and we're going to bring it down. And then on the flip side, the second thing that we heard a lot of is those bottom runes.
Tiraram 4 runas.
I don't want to say
nerfaram as runas.
Magic and rare runes that you find a little earlier, especially those runes of ritual, where those are the ones where you're actually like doing things to gain offering to then invoke those runes of invocation, those powers that you have. Those were intentionally a bit lower so that you have some progress, but it felt like when you get them, it wasn't enough. You didn't get to really feel those runes happen.
O reward só com a expansão, sim.
So on the other side, we are taking that bottom end and bringing it up. So together, we're kind of, I don't want to say flattening out, but we are making it a lot more options for the
player. Tinha uma zona muito bunda.
Really have choices throughout your whole journey rather than just a linear, get the stronger one, and then obviously it's stronger. And what this will also do, and the focus on this, is to also make those utility runes really, really potent and really pop off, and a lot more visual things to happen. And then finally, we removed a couple runes that weren't quite meeting our expectations. We have this thing that we say every once in a while, which is like condense the fun, and we want to make that like the ideal situation where we have the runes that we have are the ones that are cool and fun, and not like over bloated with just a bunch of things that don't always like.
As runas barbônicas.
Yeah, we want you to have lots of options, and we don't want individual runes or effects to really overshadow everything else. But that does mean that we want to make sure that all the options are really compelling. And so ones that aren't meeting our bar, we just would rather take them out rather than leave them in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we're always going to be adding to the rune system.
Of course.
Right? So we want to leave ourselves the space. We didn't want to water down the pool with things like the...
A estátua da Lilith tá muito foda.
That didn't really have... It was an evolutionary dead end.
Acho que só custa $500, né? Então...
So we want when a rune drops for it to feel like, oh, there's this new toy I can play with, right?
It's important that every choice in the rune system is meaningful. Like every possible rune you can take or combination, like there's something there, right?
Yeah, you want to feel it for sure, and it doesn't want to be something that you just like, oh, I got this rune, and it's like, well, let me find another one. So, all right, so here's some examples of some of the big outliers. We heard lots of feedback around these two, especially that Warcry rune. So while it was giving to everyone, it was a big power bonus. And so we're going to bring that down a little bit by it's no longer going to give that enhanced version. It's just the baseline version, so it no longer gives Berserking to all players. That does mean it still works for Barbarians because that is their skill. They should still be able to gain that power as they would expect. And then down with the Yam, which is that Druid Petrify. The rune itself is not changing. What's actually changing is on Druids themselves, their ultimate there is no longer going to give that critical bonus baseline. It's now going to be the enhanced version. So if you want that as a Druid, you can still get that big, powerful critical damage bonus. But now that baseline is going to be that big stun, that big AoE moment that you see everything on the screen freeze, and also just
nerfaram
resource. And this is
as runas que pegavam as melhores habilidades, né?
It says their spirit goes up. on the rune, it says it is your resource, so everyone gets this huge, big moment where you can kind of reset. So
if I'm a sorcerer, it doesn't generate spirit; it generates mana.
yes,
It'll give you
Right.
yes.
mana, yeah.
Right.
You don't just get a second bubble that then fills up with
Suddenly
spirit.
you're a druid.
Yeah, that'd be
not
weird.
that.
Yeah.
I like that this puts a lot more emphasis on the utility of runes, which is sort of what we had been originally intending, right? Not
Right.
every choice is going to be a multiple
Mostrou
damage source.
Balanceamento
So you should have a lot more
pra
options
semana
for
que vem já, ô
utility
Pablo.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
stealing other classes' power.
Yeah.
Isso aí, eles bufaram o Bárbaro.
Probably the single strongest
Yeah,
thing you
sim.
can do in an ARPG. And just when we noticed these ones were really those ones that are overshadowing every other option, we still think those will find a great
A DLC lança agora, semana que vem, né? Lança segunda-feira.
choice that no one else can use anything.
E essa daqui é o que o Necro arrumaram o Anel de Mendel.
Again,
Só.
I want to preface, this is not all of them. There are a bunch of changes. You guys will see them in the patch notes as we had already talked about. But some of the big ones that I wanted to show off here.
Meteoritos, mano, era uma merda isso.
That's the one that pulls everyone in. You group everything together. That is going to be almost, you're going to be able to get that off almost twice as often as it was before. So you're combine that in with something that has some grindy damage in the middle, and you're going to be just having this pop off all the time.
Assim,
As well as so
mexeram, entendeu?
sub powers.
Não quer dizer que alguém vai ver.
The sorcerer meteorites or like the barbarian earthquakes. Those things that happen based on other things, but they create like another power that comes out. We are juicing those up a lot more. So these should be some of the most powerful versions of these sub-powers in the game from these runes. And as you can see here, meteorites is jumping up a whole bunch, as well as the offering cost is going down. So you're going to be able to summon a lot more of these as well. And then one of the other things I saw feedback was around the Se rune. I don't know exactly how to say it myself. I'll have to ask Yevon about that after this. But where you summon spirit
Mas
wolves,
era ruim,
they
Meteorito.
didn't feel as
Porque você não controla nada, sabe? Era muito ruim. Não sei se eu usaria, sabe?
Poppy is like, say, the Necromancer's minions running around a lot more quickly. So we adjusted that, and so we're gonna have a video coming up here in a second, and we can see. So now you're gonna summon those wolves. They're gonna pop up and do their attack. And if you jump to the next pack, they're going to jump forward. Except this is going to happen a lot more frequently than before. So now if you, say, fight that pack, jump to the next one, every time those wolves are going to just keep jumping and keep leaping. And this works in ranged as well. So if you're fighting some enemy over here to the left, and you fight, you attack them,
Já jogou com o
jump
espírito?
immediately over there. And then if you switch to this other group on the right, those wolves are going to jump
Não
across
posso
the
falar
screen
nada.
because we've also increased that aggro range as well for that.
Yeah, they feel a lot more responsive, and like even in that clip, we saw them jump into the pack at basically the same time we did, right?
Yeah.
They are right there with you. They're not lagging behind, and
Right.
and that's always like the worst feeling when like, hey, I summoned this thing. Where are they?
Yeah,
What are they
it's
doing?
like they're back
lagging
there
behind.
a mile away.
They're no longer lazy dogs. There.
Yeah, they were tired. They were tired.
Tired little pups, and then here's some examples of those runes of ritual. Again, those are the ones that are generating this offering. And so these are mostly going to be changes to those magic and rare runes, where we've taken
Poção agora vem pra 200.
we've really knocked it up to be a lot closer to where those legendary versions of these are.
Quando vocês vão lançar o item de
A
expansão,
lot more
começa
options
na
when it comes to
sexta-feira.
deciding which combination of which runes that we are using. So.
It also just means things are a lot more reliable. Like you're actually getting procs way more
Yeah.
often with these buffs.
Yeah, you actually get to see the fun happen, right? See those effects happen a little bit more often.
Yeah, so
Vou por alguns dias, vai perder a consideração.
As Anthony mentioned, there's way more.
Não tem a menor chance de eu quebrar o embargo, gente. Vocês podem ficar tranquilos.
After
Vocês não vão escutar nada de mim.
class changes, the system changes.
Sexta cai o embargo. A partir da 1h tem review no canal. Aí vai ter um monte de coisa até semana que vem.
And I'm very concerned about monitor violence.
Oh, yes.
We heard a lot of people were wanting to punch their monitors.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
When you get a greater affix on impairment resistance. So,
Oh, yeah.
As
Oh,
monitors,
Não, não tem nenhuma lógica.
we've just removed that from the affix pool.
Yes.
So please
Yep.
don't.
Please
get mad at the
don't.
monitor.
Less
They're
punching.
innocent.
Less punching of monitors.
Save the monitors,
They're
please.
innocent.
And one thing I do want to call out on RuneWords, we actually, funny enough, we
Classe nova, bufo bárbaro, né?
players saying like, hey, we noticed like different art
Yeah.
on some of the classic runes that they may have seen from like back in D2. That art has been updated to match what you saw in D2. So
Harkens back.
yes, yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, shout
Tá pelo lado bom.
to the
Você
history.
tem o dia 8 inteiro pra jogar, o Pablo.
So, thank you guys for jumping into this. And I will say, like, this team is going to be staying vigilant.
só não dormir.
Vessel of Hatred with our live ops teams here. Shout out to our live ops team.
Já deram a dica de como pegar um atestado bom ali.
Multitudes of patches, hotfixes.
A galera dá 2 dias, pelo
Paying
jeito.
attention to the community and hearing all the feedback that players have, and we'll be jumping on a lot of the big things that we do notice and we do want to jump like kind of address earlier on, especially right after launch. So our cadence is going to be quick. So do expect that. We'll be posting all notes, all hotfixes.
Não faz o que tá servindo pra dizer o óbvio. Vamos bufar o bárbaro.
So, thank you guys again for joining us today to talk about the PTR learnings. Next up, we actually are going to start talking about the next season coming to Diablo IV,
Próxima
season 6,
temporada.
and that will actually start with the launch of Vessel of Hatred. We're going to do another quick mic swap, musical chairs thing. Maybe we turn on Benny Hill music.
Eu vou aproveitar e vou encher meu copo de coca, tá?
Here with our next group to talk about season 6.
Eu tenho build quebradaça de dado espírito. Mano, como? Alguém me explica isso, gente. A temporada do ódio. Ô Pablo, já falaram. Voltei, gente. Voltei, estamos dançando aqui, é isso? Temporada que tá prova que teoria e prática não são a mesma coisa. Exatamente. Belchior, sabia que tem uma sobrinha formada em medicina seria útil algum dia. Sobre temporada nova, não achei nada, porque eles vão falar agora, pô. Acabou a música. Vou ter que ficar eu e o demônio dançando aqui. Tô ficando com os braços cansados já, gente. Eu sou sedentário, não faço exercício, não. Vai jogar Throne and Liberty? Não, gente.
Alright, we're back. Sorry
Jogo
for that.
flopado,
You guys got to watch,
eu já tive a minha cota esse ano.
Like that and see our release date map, but we're back here to talk about.
É mais fácil vocês me perguntar se eu vou jogar o jogo novo da Fantastic.
Coming with the launch of Vessel of Hatred, and I'm joined by this wonderful group here. Brent, who we already know, our game director here, but Tim, Don, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yes, my name is Tim Ismay. I am one of the lead producers on Diablo IV. I mostly work on seasons.
I'm Don Adams. I'm the lead season designer for Season 6, the Season of Hatred Rising.
Also known as content supervisor.
Also known as
Provável, Pablo.
time to time.
There we go. Awesome. So, as Don just mentioned,
Mano,
here,
eles colocaram
Season 6
o
is
careca na frente.
Tim, do you want to...
A cabeça do cara tá refletindo, tá parecendo que é um refletor novo, velho.
Yeah, so when we started off with this, we really knew we wanted to make sure that we were launching a brand new season right alongside a Vessel of Hatred. We wanted that to be day and date. So, like, continuity...
Temporada sai no mesmo dia, tá, gente? Não é que nem foi no lançamento, não.
The hatred of Mephisto and Nahantu is spilling out into the rest of Sanctuary was kind of the anchor that we were holding on to, and we started talking about what that would mean to make a whole season around that.
Awesome. And I know with kind of like what
Megamente.
players hearing Hatred Rising, they're hearing about, you know, Mephisto and his hatred potentially leaking out into Nahantu, maybe the rest of Sanctuary. Like, what can players expect with this actual season?
Yeah, so a lot of actually what is going to be the core of Season 6 and the Season 6 experience, players have already gotten exposed to. So anybody who's playing on the PTR has been reading about the changes we put up there. Fundamental to the release of Vessel of Hatred, Season 6 brings big changes where every single class is going to gain access to new skill points. They're going to gain new skills across all the classes. They're going to gain more Paragon points, new legendary Paragon glyphs. These are all changes that are being added to.
Eles estão falando que as mudanças do jogo base é da temporada.
After Season 6, these are permanent changes to the game. On top of that, we got the standard new legendary aspects. We have new unique items and new mythic.
Essa temporada é brilhante.
Powerful mythic items that
como essa careca aqui.
Just new levels of power that were not possible before in the game. Now, to go along with this power, we will be adding these new difficulty levels that again we saw on PTR.
Mano, o cara tá falando
challenge these new levels of power.
Que o marketing entregou pra ele, mas isso já foi falado. O cara não tava na mesma sala que eles, né?
Trying to get that balance just right based on all the feedback that comes in.
Cara, tudo que o cara falou até agora, velho, era exatamente porra nenhuma, porque já foi discutido.
Trillion damage, and it'll go all over the internet. Like, I've never seen numbers this big, and that's yeah. But we tried to get it there. You're going to see crazy builds. Those are going to link into new difficulties that were never there before to try and all this new content.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I know all these things.
Contrataram o cara hoje, né? Não, o cara é o lead designer da temporada ainda.
But of course, there is more kind of associated with this specific season. So,
mano, o cara mandou marketing mambo jumbo ali.
Players can also see beyond what Tim kind of walked through.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, as we mentioned, this is the Season of Hatred Rising, so we really wanted to theme it around Mephisto.
Ascensão do ódio, né, a temporada.
The rest of the world. So let's go ahead and take a look at our visual aid here.
Beautiful.
Now, I was promised.
Muito bom isso.
I was promised that this would be turned into real art when I sent this over. I didn't think we'd be showing this, but hopefully this will all make sense by the end of the presentation. Just for now, just take it in.
There you go. Everyone loves designer art. It's core to all our live streams that we do. Art by Don Adams here, so.
Yeah, and frankly, I think it speaks for itself. I don't really know that there's much more to say. But let's
não preciso falar mais nada, é isso.
Go to the next slide here, and let's take a look at some real art.
Aí.
Season here. This is, of course, amazing key art from Dave Raposa. I just love kicking that demon in the face. That's makes me happy every time I see it. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, and I'll get into some actual details about how this stuff shows up in the world, what you're going to be looking for when you're hunting.
Fala mal da pintura do peixe ali, pô.
Rising zone events that cycle.
Ascensão do ódio vai ter a mãe do Adriano.
When these are up, everything in that
Ali é ascensão de outra coisa, Jairo.
Changes, lighting changes. The monsters will actually have, kind of hatred, gummy goop on them. You can be ambushed from portals randomly. And really all this is just setting the stage for the Realm Walker. So you'll have a separate event icon that'll let you know when the Realm Walker is going to be up. It's a world event, so it'll be in that list.
O Realm Walker é aquele elefantão, né?
Legion events and stuff. And we have some video here to kind of show you what it looks like. Actually, I think
vai jogar Tigresa?
About the Realm Walker first.
Provável.
Yeah, so this is what he looks like in game. He's awesome. These are just big, hulking kind of monstrosities stomping around, just spreading Mephisto's hatred. They summon in monsters from a plane of hell through this portal on their back. And a lot of the monsters they summon, most of them are actually new monsters from Vessel of Hatred, of the Hollows family.
Diablo 3 era.
And gross. So I think now we can take a look at what it actually looks like in game. So here's some players waiting for him to spawn. He starts burrowed like that, and you can kind of click the portal to summon some stuff to fight while you're getting warmed up here. I just love these enemies. I think they're so cool, the Hollows. So he busts out of the ground, and this is actually, we want to do something new with this event. And lean into the fantasy of this giant thing just like stomping around. So it's actually a walking world event. He has several different paths he can take throughout each area. He walks through the zone, and as he walks, he just leaves this, chaos behind him in his wake. He's summoning tons of hollows, and if you get in front of him, he just punts you out of the way and keeps going. You actually can't even damage
Ele vai andando,
in this phase.
né? Tipo,
but if you kill enough of the ads that he's spawning, it'll create these.
Você precisa patentear os desenhos dele antes do.
Killing these will shave some of the HP.
Enviar pra Blizzard, né?
So when he reaches the end of his path and you can actually fight him, you'll have less HP to burn through. So this is a nice way to incentivize actually participating, sticking around for all this chaos. Obviously, lots of XP.
Você vai arrancando a vida dele ao longo do trajeto e aí no final você.
The event that he kicks off when he actually gets to his destination, when you interrupt this ritual by destroying all of these destructible hatred spires, that's when you'll actually be able to fight him directly.
Aí ele bate, uma hora ele.
This is a really cool.
É claro que é de bárbaro, né? Até do demônio.
Big smashy attacks. He sprays a lot of damage everywhere. Okay, so they've taken him down, and when he dies, that weird portal on his back drops down and stays open. And there's only really one thing to do with a weird portal.
Yeah, you go in the portal. That's your option. So
that's what portals are made for.
Successfully killing the Realm Walker, taking down this massive demon, finally grants you your reward of more demons. So you're going to go into the Seething Realm. This is part of the Mephisto's area of hell. So you are going to have to continue fighting in here. It is not a barren landscape, but the demons you fight in here comparatively, if you were strong enough to take down a Realm Walker, don't be too worried. I think you're going to be able to manage the demons inside of the Seething Realm as well. This dungeon is a little bit more of a reward dungeon. So once you get in here, you're fighting your way through to get specific buffs at the end of it. So if we want, we can jump into the video here. Yeah, this is the first section. And this part, you're just kind of mowing through some of these smaller guys. You're really just looking for a specific gate here. There's a portal that you're going to be activating and making an important choice there.
Pelo que eu tô falando, é uma mini dungeon, né?
Seething Realm you go into. Here it is. This is the gate here. So you're going to click on this. You now have options. Based on a few consumables that you can put in, you can go into sections that are more focused on equipment bonus, a gold bonus. You can get a socketable bonus. You can get more endgame items with like compasses and boss materials. So you're going to pick.
Você pode escolher a recompensa.
You're going to get some drops similar to that in this section of the dungeon. But more importantly, this is going to set you up for the type of buff you want to get at the end of the dungeon. So again, this is not an empty area. You are going to have to fight through it. You're going to encounter more hollows in here, some more elites. All of this leading up to a chest at the end. Here's your reward. So finally, you just click on this. You get your reward. Just kidding. Yeah, of course it's a cursed event.
Of course.
You're going to have to fight even.
Vai ter evento no finalzinho.
Nothing's free in hell. This is just how you got to do it. So you fight your way through some more elites. But don't worry, I believe in you. You can get through this. If you kill the last guy, there's one more there? Take him down. Come on, you can get it. All right, so he goes down. Now you get your prizes. You're going to open these chests. There's a variety of loot that you get, but one specific item that you're looking for in here, which is going to be a seething opal. So these little, there they are, yeah, little seething opals. They got a little seasonal marker on them. This is special to Season 6. When you get these, you're going to take a look here. This is going to be a buff you get based on the one that you chose. There are some fundamentals you always get. So a seething opal always gives you a 15% bonus to experience. This is a
mente presa, né? Quase.
Elixirs. You can have an elixir and a seething opal active at the same time. That's a huge bonus. On top of that, any seething opal that you use is going to allow you to now get reputation with the remnants of the Zakarum. Don will talk about that more in just a second, but that's going to be the reputation track for Season 6. And then beyond that, you will get a bonus depending on which portal you went through, which section of the season.
Melhor mercenária será a Bárbara. Mano, eu acho que ela vai ser da hora mesmo, viu?
You want to snapshot this, anybody who's screenshotting, these are some of the bonuses you can get. As you can see on here, you're getting maybe more items, maybe more gold, more socketables. So these bonuses are going to occur while fighting anything while having this buff active. So equipment, as an example, maybe I wanted more items to be dropping. When you kill monsters, there's a chance that they're going to drop a cache that is going to give you some additional loot.
Opala, porra! Opalão!
Further in the end game, that monsters don't traditionally drop loot. Not to worry, we've adjusted that as well. If you play through the pit, as an example, we have added an additional drop at the end of the pit, again, that procs based on which seething opal that you
Fragmentos de gema e runas.
And, the socketable one I should mention, that one is special too. You do have to have Vessel of Hatred for that one. This one is more for people that are trying to get more runes. So, obviously you need to have Vessel of Hatred to get runes, so that's what's going to make this valuable to you.
Opala do equipamento, é verdade, né?
Like boss summoning items on here. Infernal compasses as well. Infernal compasses themselves are going to be very valuable because it's as Colin was mentioning.
E não, 15% de XP é mó bom, cara.
We saw what.
E estaca, né?
End up getting an infernal horde.
Você pode usar isso, você pode usar um elixir, você pode usar incenso.
For getting in there.
Yeah, seething opal of torment, I think is great.
I think that grape flavored opal is going to be very popular.
The grape one is going to be pretty popular. And a question I just quickly saw, because you mentioned stacking with elixirs, does it also stack with incense?
Opala que bebia mais que a Amy Winehouse e Tim Maia junto, né, foda?
XP right there.
Não, é aquela coisa, vou dar uma volta no quarteirão, 50 conto de gasolina.
We're seeing the rewards here, and one thing that you had mentioned, which was the Zakarum remnants. Like, what, Don, can you talk to us a little bit about kind of what that progression track is going to be?
Yeah, sure. So these are the Zakarum remnants. You've probably seen these guys in Hawazar. These are the
Retores de Zakarum
armor that have just been kind of bumming around since they failed to find Akarats too.
Até que enfim buff que não vai pro Bárbaro.
A very personal connection with Mephisto.
Não, pisou, velho. Você já sente a carteira ficando mais leve.
And at this time, they're still just not really ready to stand up and fight this at full force, right? They've been dealing with cultists, and they're just not at their full strength. So you'll meet this crusader right at the start of the season who will give you a very simple intro quest, basically, to guide you to kill a realm walker, clear a seething realm, and he'll be your point of contact for reputation rewards following that. So, basically, we built this in a way that, with the opals giving rep for all sorts of different activities, the idea is that you can, go and kind of do whatever you want to do, as long as you're checking in.
Nossa, tem essa ainda, né, Doctor?
And keeping a stack of these opals on hand. It's very open-ended how you want to push this reputation track.
Yeah, it is always nice to see that anywhere that new demons occur in the world, there is always some faction out there that's trying to take care of them and would appreciate your help. So the Zakarum here, they've had a rough go of it, but if you can help them out, I think that we can handle this problem.
And they're not at their best right now.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really like about the way we've looked at this whole
Os Zakarum estão fodidos, é isso.
Not only have we done a bunch of diligence in making sure that the story is taking part in all of Sanctuary, we're touching on some really cool lore stuff that has existed for a long period of time, but we're also leaning into a theme of giving the players more control over the experience. And so whether it's the choice of reward or being able to stack these rewards to get specific outcomes, you're going to see that not only in the season, so everybody's going to get access to this in the season, but we have that theme also creeping into some of the stuff you'll see with the Vessel of Hatred content in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully the hieroglyphs that we saw at the beginning, the designer, hopefully this makes sense now, right?
Yeah.
You kill the Realm Walker to get the portal, you do the portal to get the opals, and then you go do, the MS Paint sort of shapes of all the other activities that are in the game. You can also just chain run the Realm Walker if you'd like as well. He's up very often, and I expect people will kind of, go back and forth on how often they're interacting with them. You might want to stack a bunch of opals for the weekend or something, right?
If you hate Realm Walkers and you're like, I just want to kill Realm Walkers all day, you can. But what I love about the season is exactly that. You can get the opal. It's a great buff, and now go play other content, including the new content that's coming out in Vessel of Hatred. If you bought the expansion, got a lot of options there, so you don't have to just play the seasonal content. You can go play this other stuff while still having the buff.
Including the Vessel of Hatred campaign, which is kind of a first, right? You'll need to have completed the base campaign, but you can play the Vessel of Hatred campaign alongside the Season 6 content, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so huge for people that, have base game or Vessel of Hatred can partake in the content for this season. Don, Tim, thank you guys for walking us through all the Season of Hatred Rising content that's coming with the launch of Vessel of Hatred. This is starting right at the beginning, right when Vessel of Hatred actually comes out, which is...
Olha, tem uma live ali, nem tinha anotado.
4 p.m.
Soltaram o patch notes? Vai sair.
4 p.m. Pacific time, which is
Depois do negócio.
because it is one global release. So so
it'll be the 7th for me.
Yeah. 7th for us here in California, but for other people, if you follow time zones, that's what it'll end up being. So we'll see Tim more during our Q&A at the end.
Será que teremos alguma menção de
We're
Tirael?
going to jump into some of the Vessel of Hatred features next. We're going to do another musical chairs, Benny Hill style, swap out some mics and everything, but we have a lot to talk about. We got Spiritborn stuff to talk about. We got Kuras Undercity to talk about. Been doing that quite often this week. Dark Citadel, and of course Mercenaries. So we'll be back with a whole new crew here in just a couple of minutes.
Caraca, não para, velho. Vocês estão mexendo ali. Nossa, o cara me salvou, mandou mensagem que chegou a Coca-Cola distribuidora. Pô. A apresentação da Blizzard é foda, né, cara? A trilha do Diablo IV base também era muito boa. Do Bárbaro Ops do Diabo também é boa. Oh, mas tá boa a música aqui. Mano, eu vi o live action, achei legal também. Os Power Rangers da floresta. Bom, ficou, mano. A cara só saiu da peregrinação porque acabou a internet, mano. Então, Phantom, tá foda. Esse dia 8 não chega nunca. Pô, cadê o demônio dançando lá? Foi tudo. Chega o Natal, mano. Cara, o pior é que eu tô com tanta coisa pra fazer. Ah, é verdade, né? No Discord. Boa. Tocou no bate-papo, né? Eu falei em Reapers, ficou muito bom. Ficou muito... Deixa eu puxar aqui. Ficou muito... Mano, eu gostei muito desse negócio aqui, que ele vai pro lado que ele quer, né? Aqui. O... Como é que chama? Ficou muito gangue de motoqueiro, né? Ficou muito bom isso aqui, cara. Tem que guardar isso aqui pra um dia que o necromante for bufado, porque... Vamos falar a verdade, né? Coitado do necromante. Estão sofrendo hoje. Mas bufaram o bárbaro. Então, o Necro foi bufado na temporada 4, né? Não foi 4 ou 3, não lembro. E aí depois falou, gostou. Vinhão. Ó o tigreso. Não, a dos conteúdos foi a 3. A gente tá na 5 já. Boa tarde, Sr. Lobo. Aceitamos mais buffs
In the middle of chewing a totally gummy. Welcome back, guys. We are here. Sorry, to talk about Vessel of Hatred content. This is all the new content that's coming with the expansion. We've actually talked about this before in specific moments, but we didn't do like kind of bigger, deeper dives on this beyond like the Spiritborn, where we had a separate.
Compensação, bufaremos o Bárbaro. É o quinto elemento, eu sempre tô apresentando ali, né? Que senão eles não sabem o que fazer, né, Lobo?
To being next to me. He just wanted to be a little closer, that's all. But Derek, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. Hey everyone, I'm Derek Nunez, lead season designer, and I'll be
Não, porque da última vez que eles nerfaram o Bárbaro,
Bjorn?
quem levou o nerf foi o Necro, por tabela. E o Bárbaro saiu ileso.
I'm a lead game designer, and I'll
Se pedir pra bufar o Necro, eles vão bufar o Bárbaro 2 vezes.
So, you know, tons of content coming to Vessel of Hatred. I know players have heard us talk about it a little bit, but Brent, did you want to talk about any content specifically before we jump in?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of teeing up the next big thing that we want to talk about is just kind of how well the Spiritborn reaction has been since we've announced it. It's been amazing to see folks so excited about it. It's something that we've been pouring a lot of love into. We wanted to make sure they were adding something fresh to the game, and I really feel like we're there. But when we released it, we actually still had.
Vou falar do Tigreso.
And so throughout the PTR and the last few weeks of development here, we've been putting a lot of effort into polishing things up, and I'm super excited to hear Bjorn talk about what we've got in store.
Yeah, lots of internal testing. We had players actually check it out at Gamescom as well, which was really cool. So. As we all know, Bjorn was on our Spiritborn review, and he's back to talk more about Spiritborn. So here is Spirit Bjorn to talk more about the
Had to do it right away.
Spiritborn.
Mano, ali atrás só ficou os caras com cabelo feio, né? Olha aqui.
Because I just say Spirit Bjorn.
Desgraceira de cabelo dessa dupla.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, we've seen a lot of the sort of in development side of it, and we're just going to talk about a few kind of final touches, the final version of a few things that we want to hit on quickly here in this presentation. So starting off, we're going to talk about a couple of updates to the Spiritborn's passives. First off, we have 3 additional passives which have been added to the tree. Each of these kind of
Novos,
the skills work that they relate to. So we have one for core skills, one for potency skills, and one for focus skills. And that sort of lets you kind of go more all in on any of those skills. There's also here on the far side of the slide an update to Noxious Resonance, which is one of Spiritborn's key passives. We really wanted to kind of clarify how it scales and kind of answer some lingering questions about exactly how it works.
Boa caminhada.
Still largely based around exploding the poisons on your enemies. Moving on to another thing, we're going to have a small update to the Jaguar primary Spirit Hall. This will still do lots of damage whenever you spec into it. It's all about damage with the Jaguar, but this has focused it a little bit more about multi-attack skills, high attack speed, and really like allowing you to ramp up the damage that you can get it. Because now it's also based around the damage that you did in a short window. So that lets you sort of echo all of that damage that you did the faster you're attacking.
O Jaguar tá fazendo igual as coisas do Ladino, né?
Medium-sized update. There was some confusion around Spirit Feathers, Storm Feathers, the Eagle Hall, how all that kind of works together. So this has been unified into a new concept just called Storm Feathers. What this is this is a buff that you can get. This increases your movement speed and it stacks duration. And now all of these things, they all speak to the Storm Feather concept. So you can get them, you can modify them, you can make them do different things, and you can even like use it to make kind of some crazy builds. I think we have a video for it where you can just kind of have feathers going all over the place as you're doing it. And you can even use like Temperine and various Paragon that increases Storm Feather potency that will speak to all of these aspects as well as the Eagle.
Essas...
And then moving on to the last thing we've got should be...
Essas penas aí, na verdade,
so some of you
são...
might have gotten to see some early versions of these.
As gotas de sangue do necromante, né?
The final versions with all of their stats in all of their glory. So to start off, we have 6 unique Spiritborn rings. Each of these kind of emphasizes a combination of 2 spirits and really lets you sort of tailor how you generate your resource to sort of make the build that you're looking to make. Then moving on to our unique armors, we showed off the Scorn of the Earth boots that turns your sword into evade, and everybody really loved that. A couple other examples, we've got Craze of the Dead God, which allows you to turn poisoning, all damage coming at you into poisoning damage, and then sort of throw that back out.
Nomearam os anéis.
Touch of Death, which is pretty neat. And then we've also got our helms. We have 2 different unique helms. One is focused more along the lines of letting you sort of mix and match spirits, while the other one is more about kind of doubling down on using a single spirit. And then finally, we have our unique weapons. We've got several glaives and quarterstaffs. We already showed off the basic one, but we're going to quickly show off sort of its counterpart, which is the one for your core skills. So this one allows you to sort of spam your core skills almost as if they were basics at sort of reduced damage, but when you're at maximum vigor, it ramps up to be a maximum size.
Core skills é skill básica. Caraca, isso aí parece forte.
So we think that one's pretty fun too. And then lastly, I believe I have a slide just for, yeah, there we go. Are drop tables for the bosses. So if you're looking to target farm any of these specific ones, similar to the other classes, you can kind of farm these based on a screenshot of this and go for it.
Vou tirar screenshot mesmo.
Awesome. Yeah, tons of updates. We've done so much internal testing. We've heard a lot of feedback because we had that deep dive blog. We've seen people theory craft. We've seen people actually play it at Gamescom. We've had a couple content creators like during the Spiritborn live stream and even during our kind of a preview event, they actually got to try it out and stuff. So hearing all this feedback and then applying some of the feedback and some of the internal feedback that we ended up getting and seeing all the changes here and updating everyone has been really cool to see. So thank you again, Bjorn, for walking us through the Spiritborn. The class is incredibly fun. day one is what I'm playing for Vessel of Hatred. I think most of us are. But yeah, it's a ton of fun to check out. Next up, what we wanted to talk about is Kuros Undercity. This is actually a feature that we did announce with Gamescom, but we didn't really get a ton of opportunities to really kind of like dive deeper into.
Essa é a cidade subterrânea, né?
So, Derek, you want to take us through this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the Kuros Undercity is a brand new dungeon experience that players, our Vessel of Hatred players, will be unlocking throughout the course of the campaign. It's appropriately located in the new capital city of Kuros, but it's the part of town that's not recommended that the standard citizen venture into. It's a section of the Kuros town that is still infested by the jungles of Nahantu and kind of overrun with the worst of the worst. It's Nahantu's most wanted inside the various districts that make up the
Tá falando que é o esgoto de Kuros, né?
As players are unlocking it, they'll meet a new character named Seahek that kind of teaches you the laws of the Undercity and how to commune with the spirit flames to traverse its treacherous depths, basically. So that's kind of like the narrative setting for it, but let's dive into the actual experiential standpoint, which we see here already. So the Kuros Undercity is an intense multi-floor time attack dungeon where players will be racing against an aggressive countdown timer to reach the district boss with as high of a rewards upgrade meter built up as possible. And
parte de cabelo é importantíssimo.
So fun little novel wrinkle here is that killing certain monsters we refer to as afflicted will give you time bonuses to extend your time in the Undercity. And just killing monsters in general and completing dungeon activities will build up this reward upgrade meter referred to in-game as attunement. As far as the Undercity's role,
Tá bem aqui onde tá a minha cara, né? Ó.
New novel leveling content.
Embaixo.
Power really comes into the fact that it's brand new opportunistic content that allows players to make very efficient, very specific progress towards rewards goals as the opportunities arise. I'll dive deeper into that in the next few slides, but for now, just want to kind of set the stage that the Undercity does not necessarily have any objective aside from get to the boss, beat the clock, and do so with the highest amount of rewards upgrades built up as possible. How the players go about doing that is entirely up to them, because this is, again, a dungeon that celebrates autonomy, flow, and variety.
And this is a good example. We were talking about
dungeon time attack.
New modes that we have. We want that player agency to come back to the player.
Yeah.
Play your way. And I think this is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into the next slide here. Cool. So I mentioned opportunistic content. And this is where the Undercity's primary role in the reward structure is. So we have dungeon keys that grant you access to dungeons. The Undercity's version of a dungeon key is in the form of tributes. So you can hop into an Undercity run without a tribute, just do the thing, the base run. But when you start applying tributes, this is where we allow you to define the specific reward upgrade opportunities of your next Undercity run at the cost of increasing the run's challenge. So you can see an example of a tribute here. This is the Tribute of Radiance. And when you slot this in, so long as you complete your Undercity run with at least attunement rank 1, we will guarantee that you get ancestral legendaries at the end. We'll dive a little bit deeper.
Pode escolher o que você vai ganhar no final da dungeon. Isso aqui é muito bom, mano.
Define the specific challenge. So the higher and more powerful the tribute, the tougher the challenge is in the form of lower starting time, time bonus penalties, and potion drop penalties. But the fun doesn't stop there. In fact, we're just getting started. Once you apply a tribute, you now unlock the ability to define a bargain. Each tribute has a list of bargains mapped to it. So this Tribute of Radiance has a collection of them. We're just picking out a couple that seem pretty fun to show off. And bargains allow you to further customize your rewards at a varying material cost. So we have one here, skill ranks. Legendary armors will always possess at least one skill rank affix for X amount of gold here. And then the passive ranks, which you'll see a little bit more later, the legendary amulets will always possess at least one passive rank affix.
50 milhões de
So let's go into the next slide just to, again, recap the full flow. And we're going to see a video of all of this to let it all kind of like soak in and see like the full flow of the Undercity. So we have the front-end experience where you interact with the Spirit Brazier. You can jump directly into your district run, or you can optionally apply a tribute and then a bargain to specify the rewards opportunity of your next run. So let's go see this in action. Look at that.
Exatamente.
So this is the hub of the Undercity, and that's the Spirit Brazier that I was mentioning. You can see that we have the base, the base run rules. Starting time, no time bonus penalties, no potion drop penalties, and we have the opportunity to apply a tribute. We have 4 tributes here, so we'll show these in a still shot later, so you don't have to worry about, oh, what does it say? But we have 4 tributes here that range from magic all the way to unique to accommodate your leveling journeys. So for now, we applied the legendary tribute that'll guarantee ancestral uniques at the end of your run. And again, this is the list of potential bargains that I mentioned that each tribute has. Each tribute has varying quantities of bargains attached to
Vai ter tributos dropáveis também?
Pick the passive rank,
Tributo sim.
for the low
A barganha, pelo que ele tá falando, você paga, né?
Flame services don't come cheap, but they're worth it. So we got the portal open, and we're going to hop into the run. We're going to have this play a couple times. First, I just want to point out the HUD, because this is really kind of your guide through the experience. So you can see at the top, once we exited that spirit aura, the timer starts, and that's a nice little timer.
O tributo é como se fosse uma chave, né?
Floors that you have left to traverse. Very key information right there. To the right-hand side in the objective tracker, we have the attunement meter, and it's segmented into 4 ranks. Again, as I mentioned, achieving rank 1 is the bare minimum requirement necessary to get the value of the tribute that you slotted in. All subsequent ranks further enhance the value of that reward. So while you certainly want to strive to get attunement rank 4 to maximize your payout, it's not necessary if you're feeling the pinch of the time pressure. That if you at least get attunement rank 1, you can run it.
Chega o Natal, mas não chega a 17.
And still come away with the thing that you're looking for. Gonna point out a couple things here. You might have seen, let's do the Spirit Beacon. So the Spirit Beacon is one of our activity types, and completing it both gives you attunement, a good splash of attunement, and it applies a momentary spirit buff that increases your movement speed and reduces your, the skill cooldowns. Mm-hmm. Again, you got to move fast in the Undercity, so these Spirit Beacons are incredibly useful for getting you to the next location, whether it's another Spirit Beacon or the exit.
O Spirit Beacon ali reduz a sua seus cooldowns aí, é legal. Vai ser uma Gauntlet melhorada. Mas também não dá pra piorar aquilo lá, né, Felipe?
On the combat, and killing them is what gives you the time bonuses to extend your run. I think
mais fácil ver de novo o Cometa Harley do que chegar o dia 7, mano.
Example, floor 1, there's still 2 more floors to traverse.
O Cometa Harley acho que passou a última vez quando eu era moleque, cara.
Yeah, let's hop up. There we go. We're into the boss room. So in this case, we have finished all 3 floors and we made it to the boss room. One thing you notice that time expiration, it stops. Time drain stops in the boss room, so you just need to make it to the boss room before that timer hits 0. This is Aaliyah, one of our 3 district bosses. And it's important to call out that there are 3 total districts to explore in the Undercity. Again, that's kind of tapping into the variety aspect of things. So Aaliyah is, again, just one of 3 henchmen that own the various districts. So in this case, we're at the tail end of this fight. We just, killed Aaliyah, and
vocês viram que teve mecânica desse chefe, né?
Reward upgrade of 4. So now we're going to get the best possible payout for this.
Argas, e aí?
We're looking for ancestral legendaries, and as the Spirit Flames promised, ancestral legendaries is what we get. And the greater affixes. And we also see that we got an amulet. If we were to dive into the amulet, we would have seen that the bargain would have applied to it as well. So the player would have gotten specifically what they came in here for. So that's a really quick snapshot.
Copiaram a cara do sim.
I guess the structure of an Undercity flow.
Cheio de mecânica pro Bárbaro tancar e o resto morrer, isso é verdade.
Attributes that we saw in the gameplay footage and spend a little bit more time with them. So this is an example of 4 of our 8 total tributes. These are
8 tributos.
Primarily just to showcase how the tributes are tuned to progress with your leveling journeys. So we start off here with the tribute of growth. This is usable in all difficulty levels. This is the tribute that rewards additional experience when you complete the Undercity. So this is great, for leveling up your alts, leveling up your character in general. And you can see here that we start applying the first of the, I guess penalties or challenges for this, in the sense that we have lower starting time. We actually incur a time bonus penalty now, and we have potion drop penalties.
Nenhum mostra o plano item único.
This is just found randomly in Sanctuary, so as you're just doing your standard leveling stuff like
Aqui, ó. A última aqui, ó.
you will get these types of tributes to say, point you to the Undercity every now and again. So let's go back to the tribute gallery, as I like to call it.
Can we go back to that last slide that we had up there? There we go.
Yeah. Cool. All right, cool. Thank you.
All right, aqui, ó.
From there, it just gets progressively more challenging, but also progressively more rewarding
Chance
for
de
the players. So,
mítico.
Tribute of Harmony rewards guaranteed runes. This is a Torment tier difficulty. And you can see, we just amp up the challenge with each one. The Tribute of Radiance.
Ah, não, mas aí é...
That we guaranteed ancestral legendaries. And the Tribute of Ascendance is example, kind of like the cream of the crop tribute. Unique tribute that guarantees several uniques with an increased chance of a mythic unique. And I just want to call it out here that I know that the last two tributes say that they're resolute tributes and they only apply rewards to the player that offered it. We do have variants of both of these that work in party, so that whole is covered. The rest of the tributes that don't have that distinction, they reward everyone in the party. It's just these last two that kind of had that little asterisk on it. Yeah, I think that's the gallery of the tributes, and again, these are mapped to the rest of them are mapped to a variety of content like the whisper caches, the summoned lair bosses, and a variety of things that I'm forgetting on the spot here.
Yeah, this is a fantastic activity to do when you're somewhat in the mid game of your journey. So you're going to be introduced to this as you're making your way through the campaign. And but the thing I like about it is with all the progression changes that we've been looking at, this also scales with you. And so this is the type of activity that's going to stick with you for a while. It's a great way to get control over looking for the items you're looking for.
Cara, isso daí é a mesma mecânica que a gente tem no...
Yeah. And I think
Lost Ark. Lost Ark não. Last Epoch.
Solo, or you can do it with a group, so it's not like you...
É a mesma mecânica, e é legal.
You want to bring in a full party, or if you like to just conquer it yourself. And I know a lot of people in the chat are going like, hey, 50 million for all that. There are, I'm not sure if you guys saw all the different bargains and everything. There's a plethora of different costs for a lot of different options. And depending on what you're looking for, you can obviously target specific things. You may specifically want, uniques or something like that, and that like chaotic uniques I think had like an obol requirement or whatever. So there's a lot of different bargain options for players to get, and if you are looking for specific rewards, you have an additional avenue to do so, which is really cool with Cuirass Undercity. So awesome. Cool. Well, there we go.
I think there's more, actually. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. It's the best prices. The Cuirass Undercity is the gift that keeps on giving. So one additional activity that you'll discover in
Goblin
Undercity is our Undercity unique treasure goblin, the Portal Prankster. We'll show some gameplay footage in just a moment, but first I just want to call out killing him will reward a bonus chest at the end of the dungeon. And in addition, that contains just standard treasure goblin loot, runes, and more tributes. So it's a really good, very juicy reward to go after the Portal Prankster when you come across him. But you would be doing so at your own peril, because you'll see in this video that he has a particular mechanic to him that makes it a little bit tricky when you have a continually timer that's continually counting down. So you'll see here that when he's aggroed, he
Olha que arrombado!
just like Benny Hills through them. It's a chase. So this is kind of tapping into the risk versus reward nature of the Undercity, where you make decisions based on how confident you are at the current state of your run.
Você tá falando isso num lugar que você tem que cada segundo deve valer.
Right from the get-go, but all of his rewards are funneled at the end of the experience. So again, a variety of the spice of life in the Undercity, and
Mas no Diablo 3 ele enfocava mais goblins, né?
Yeah, it's cool to see a new goblin.
Era uma Portal Gun pro Goblin.
Of course, the ultimate troll goblin, as you can see in the gameplay, and that's the risk reward you were talking about. Like, do you spend the time and chasing after this specific goblin as it's bouncing between different portals as your time is ticking down and you're trying to progress and get better rewards. And of course, if you succeed and you get everything, you get that extra chest at the end, which is really awesome.
Yeah,
so
it's worth it.
Yeah, most definitely is worth it, especially since you get so much.
Então eles ficavam fugindo, né? Ele não.
Goblin as well. So thank you.
Eles não entravam em portal.
We have,
Que nem o Lobo falou, a portal gun.
We actually have a physical seat here because we do actually have one other person that we're going to be tapping into to talk to us about the Dark Citadel, and this is Mr. Jason Bentley, who is live via satellite. That's what I'm going to say, satellite from the East Coast. Jason is our lead raid designer on Dark Citadel, and Jason, do you want to talk to us a little bit about it?
Cidadela Sombria. O que mudou no Goblin? Não, nada. Mas na cidade subterrânea tem um Goblin específico de lá.
Focused piece of content for Diablo IV. So, as you can kind of guess, this whole thing's about essence and souls and sealing them and owning them and just using it as power.
O fogo no hardcore quando apareceu Goblin, muitos.
They are taking over the crater left from the Mage Clan Civil War, blasted a hole into the ground, and they've moved in, and they're using all the souls from the dead Mage Clan people to power their crazy experiments. They're really, really.
Pô, eu lembro, eu gostava deles também. Sempre gostei dos Goblins.
And they turn them into like power sources and batteries, and they use them, and they're all about resurrecting their dead god Zagral. This all takes place it starts in Hantu. You start out the whole quest line in Kurast. People are gonna tell you how bad this is. They really don't like having their friends and family stolen and taken and drained and having Hus returned. So you're gonna go on a quest to go find out what's happened to these people and see if you can go help. A lot of other heroes have actually tried this and they have all failed. So really, when you get through this entire experience, what you really come back with is only together can we prevail. We need to bring some friends with you to come to this content. You're not going to be able to do it.
Essa é a raid, viu, gente, que eles estão falando.
Once you get through all of this, it actually only happens at Torment 1. So this is not a early leveling experience. This is something when you're really into the game and you really need to like move your build along. So once you enter Torment 1, you can go on this quest and access the Ancient Nexus, which is its own town space with a waypoint of all of its own, which gives access to the 3 dungeons you can see here. These dungeons have multiple boss fights.
3 dungeons.
One, and they each take a little bit of time to get through. Practice will help you optimize these runs. Experience will help you show expertise and shepherding other people to show them how to complete these mechanics. And communication is not required, but it definitely leads to better outcomes. There's a lot of new challenges and mechanics, and there's really no mercy for the hardcore players, so you have to be good too. As you can see right now, we've actually got one party split across 2 different realms, doing different mechanics and helping each other and coming back together to bring down the boss. It really takes at least 2 players.
Mano, pelo que tá falando aí, é que nem a Câmara de Cristal. Divide a party e cada vai pra lado.
We have multiplayer boss fights through the entire experience, and we always say that players are stronger together. It's tuned for 4 players. 2 players can do these mechanics, but it means you have to handle the mechanics and the monsters and the bosses by yourselves. We're not going to duck the difficulty for fewer players.
Dificuldade é a mesma com 2 ou 4 players.
We've got people relying on each other to get through all of this. There's a lot of hero moments in this content. The best moments we had when we were playtesting this is somebody's dead and the other person's running around and they click the switch or they res their friend right in time to jump through the portal or kill the boss, and everyone's just screaming and having a great time. It's really, really fun to work together and see those moments where, like, depending on your party members, really pays off. We also have an exclusive monster
Novos
family
casa.
for the Dark Citadel. These are the newest, smartest monsters you have met. These are the first Khazra. They're pretty evil people. Shout out to the first Khazra monster family team. They did a great job on all of these guys. They are awful. They're decadent. They're sophisticated. They use a lot of magic. They do a lot of crazy things to like bring down the party.
These are cool looking enemies, that's for sure. I know with at least Dark Citadel, of course, there's always awesome rewards that are kind of associated with this. Jason, do you want to talk to us a little bit about those?
Absolutely.
I think we have that queued up. Yeah, let's see if we can get that queued up here. The joys of
Well, we do have.
We did it.
Oh, actually, a quick quality of life improvements here. We actually have a marker system to help parties get through the experience. You can just drop them into your emote wheel, and then as you're running through the experience, you can use those emotes to indicate to your friends and party members, hey, I found something of interest, or hey, it's over here, this is the way forward. And then a really nice thing is this is available outside the Citadel as well. It's not exclusive. So you'll be able to use this wherever you go with your party. We also have a combat log during the Citadel experience to help you understand what's happening, especially where you're taking damage from and big moments. And you've heard about the Party Finder. That's also created with obviously Citadel in mind, but it supports everybody else. But facilitate getting lots of people.
Será que precisa?
Yeah,
hopefully now we can talk about rewards.
Well, before we jump into that, I do want to make mention, because that was a really interesting screen to see the communication stuff and talking about Party Finder. One of the things that we've seen since launch is that our cooperative player base is growing. You know, it's growing steadily, and so we wanted to make sure that we did a couple of things. First off, we wanted endgame content for them, right? That's what this is all about, is making sure that we have that really aspirational endgame content for folks who like to play with their friends.
Indie game, para quem tá jogando de
is that we know that we could
co-op.
let this spread out into more segments of the game. And so the Party Fighter was originally a discussion that we had for how to support the Dark Citadel, but it is now benefiting all the other activities in our game as well. So for those of you who experience, you're seeing the early stages of us really expanding, getting people together in the content that is the best inside of the game. And so it's really exciting. But it does boil down to that communication, and that marker system is something that can be used in the Citadel as well as outside of the Citadel.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to be really valuable for a lot of folks out there.
Yep, most definitely. All right, now on to rewards.
Mas, provavelmente...
Absolutely. So you're
não vai ter servidor de PTR, então não tem por que você baixar.
Sets on the Tuesday or the day of the week that we set. So really, that's going to drop a massive ancestral loot drop each time you pop that open, which only happens when you...
Vamos falar ainda sobre mercenários.
You don't want to chase that thing. That is a huge, important drop for a week. But beyond that, there's lots of rewards for repeated runs. The Citadel coins are going to allow you to purchase all of these consumables, and you can maximize the number of coins you get per run by killing treasury monsters and playing on higher difficulties. Like, it really scales up the Citadel coins you get. And why do you care about those? Well, these rewards these consumables really make
Mazibot não liga, Odi.
easier and more fun to play with groups and parties.
Meu Jesus. Tomei flashbang aqui.
Allows purchase of the Scroll of Restoration. So if you want to like just chase down and buy scrolls, this is a great place to do that.
Sick slide for a production right there.
We're doing this live, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's actually really cool to see. And again, the Scroll of Restoration being a reward in Dark Citadel. And like what we talked about earlier, you actually do get 2 guaranteed ones in the season journey. And at the same time, those are something that you can find all around the world. But Dark Citadel is like also just like that guaranteed way of being able to get it as well. So there's a lot of different variety of rewards. But it goes beyond what we just showed.
Diablo 2?
There's actually some really cool stuff as well that I know Jason.
E Diablo 2 quando Diablo 2 era lançamento.
Absolutely. I would love to end up on just the way everyone can show off their ability to just play this content to the top levels. So we're going to show you our premier gear. There's actually 2 levels of gear that you can get from playing the Dark Citadel. There's the normal gear, which you'll get from Torments 1 through 3, and it's pretty accessible, but what you're seeing right now is our premier content, which comes from only completions in Torment 4. So,
aí eu achei da hora, hein?
Exciting for everyone to get is I'm excited to give it to you.
Puta que me pariu.
In the Citadel, and thank you for letting me show this off.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. To this mount.
That mount.
Go back to the mount. Go back to the mount. Go back to the mount. I know you were probably like, oh, we got to scroll through everything. Okay, there we go. The mount is sick. See, scroll through. There we go.
Do it live.
Okay, yeah, the mount is sick.
Aí.
A lot of people are going to be kind of like.
Não, druida, mano. Druida é gordo, pô.
Jason, thank you so much for walking us through that. Really excited for it. And what's cool,
O lance é.
you mentioned Dark Citadel itself. Like you can do.
Aquilo ali era até 4.
To go for 2 people if you're really skilled.
Até T3 você tem conjunto de cosmético, T4 é outro conjunto.
The game now.
Meu Deus do céu, cara. Vou ter que cracudar essa bosta que nem Destiny, velho.
And of course, we have the additional communication tools with all the different pings that you can end up using and markers that you can end up using to help kind of guide that whole entire group there. So lots of cool stuff coming with Dark Citadel. Really cool
free
content that's coming to Vessel of Hatred. And
A roupa é se você fizer o conteúdo e pagar a expansão.
But of course, we have one last topic that we do want to talk about.
Depois disso é grátis.
And that is our Mercenaries feature. That is something that we did announce during Gamescom, but we do want to go into a little bit of a deeper dive.
Mercenários, gente.
So Brent, Dan, do you guys want to take us through Mercenaries?
Yeah, just to kick it off, Mercenaries is one of those legacy features that you've seen in multiple Diablo games. And when we started talking about this very early on, we're like, what is the approach that we can
Não, os cosméticos sim.
Everything else that
free se você conseguir.
That is different. Obviously, we've been touching
porque é recompensa.
And we've been doing a bunch of reworks on class builds. So we knew a couple things here. First, we wanted to make sure that the system was built in a way that could complement your build type, right? So every build type has a little bit of a soft
Obrigado, Souzário.
Mercenaries is a really good way of, you can level them up in a way that can actually fill in that soft spot. And the other thing that we really wanted to make sure of is that they were always useful, right? And so as you play along the game, you're interacting with them in way different ways than you would just by leveling up and using them basically as a power item, right? And so the way that we folded this in is far more robust than we've seen in other systems in the past. And yeah, I can't wait for Dan to show it off.
Awesome, yeah, let's dive into it. So I think we can go to the first slide. Awesome. So we announced these characters at Gamescom, and these are the 4 mercenaries that you're going to meet as you play Vessel of Hatred. Early on in the campaign, you're going to meet Rahir, the guy in the middle, and you're going to lend him a hand in kind of tracking down these other characters, doing their quest lines, and unlocking them. And they're like really involved quest lines. They're pretty awesome. They have cutscenes. They have a lot of narrative backstory where you kind of get to know more about these characters. And they have a lot of personality, so they're pretty interesting. And we really want to make them feel like characters that live in the world. They don't just sit in the hideout the whole time when you're running around, and you might see an event where they're actually participating in the event. So you may even run into some of these characters before you unlock them.
Os eventos, a gente já viu
a little bit more detail than what we announced at Gamescom. I'm going to talk about playstyle and perk for each mercenary. I'm going to talk about reinforcements, which is a new way to interact with mercenaries. And then we're going to talk about bartering and progression at the end. All right, so I'm going to talk about the playstyles for each mercenary. And to start, I want to just show an example of a skill tree. So every skill tree for a mercenary, at the very top, the starting node is their perk. And this is a passive bonus you get whenever a mercenary is hired into your party. And they're pretty awesome. They're really powerful. Hopefully when you hire a merc, you feel like they're changing the way you play. And then every skill tree has 6 skills and 12 upgrades. So let's dive into some examples. So for Rahir, he's really like the tank if you need someone to help protect you. And his skill tree is kind of split up into a tower shield, which is about getting in the thick of battle, tanking things for you, taunting. And he also has a round shield, which is sort of themed around being a holy protector. So the top node that you start with for Rahir, and this is when you hire him to your party, is Valiance. And what this does is basically if you take a lot of damage in one hit, he's going to negate that damage, block it for you, and he's going to knock down enemies. He's also going to grant you unstoppable, so he can really save your life. So here's an example where this
this beast is gonna hit me, and these guys hit pretty hard. So here it comes, boom. So we're here kind of leapt in, he negated that damage, and he knocked them down. So that's awesome. I imagine hardcore players will gravitate towards this unless they are risk takers. So
hardcore é realmente
very powerful perk. Cool. Let's talk about some upgrades. I think we skipped ahead a slide if we want to go back one. There we go. Cool. So here's some upgrade examples on here skill tree. The first one, draw fire. We're going to show a video in a second.
Mas vão ter a mesma IA dos Minions. Nossa senhora, se for lascou, Felipe.
So if you're in danger, you need health, it's going to help save you. Iron Wolf's Virtue, when Rahir's Valiance is triggered, he heals you and his cooldown's reduced, so you can just get it to happen more often. And he has a shield throw, which some D3 Crusader players might love, where he chucks his shield, it bounces off some targets, and this kind of marks them, so you can sort of play whack-a-mole, and if you hit those targets, you'll get healed back. So it's another way to keep yourself alive. All right, cool. Let's check out an example for Draw Fire. So you're gonna see I use my potion. The UI would help you show that, but yeah, I used the potion right there. We're here, taunted everybody. Sweet, I did not die, and I'm happy. All right, let's go to the next one. So Varyana, we call her the Berserker Crone. She is a reformed cannibal. She's got a pretty interesting backstory.
Ex-cannibal.
Personality. She's kind of zany and crazy. She's also the cook for the mercenaries, and I don't know if I would eat her food. I don't really trust her. But her skill tree's kind of split up into two themes: dual wield axes, which is all about visceral cleaves and bleeds, and large mace, which is heavy slams. So you may be familiar with the Massacre bonus from D3. Her perk is very similar, where basically you get this bonus. We could jump to the video. And as you kill monsters, you're going to see when I get 10 kills, the Massacre bonus kicks in. It's going to show up above her portrait on the left side of the screen. So it should say times 10. Cool. I now
Ela tem bônus de massacre, né, do Diablo 3.
And I get it to higher thresholds. I'm going to get more and more movement speed. So you're kind of encouraged to play more aggressive, keep this going before it runs out of time. And it sort of snowballs into this fun gameplay where you're going really fast. So you can embrace your inner Sanic and go real fast with Varyana as your hired merc. All right, I got some upgrades for Varyana. So dismembering is, oh yeah, sorry. So this one, it's going to guarantee an overpower. She's going to knock people down, and you get a guaranteed overpower. So if you're playing Barb, it's going to be really useful.
Fala dos mercenários, sim.
When you get CC'd, Varyana is going to leap on the enemy that inflicted it and knock them down. So this can also save your life. And no escape is Varyana does Whirlwind. This makes it really big, and as she's spinning around, she's kind of grouping enemies up for you. So that can be a fun one. I think we showed both. So yeah, dismembering here. So she's going to set us up. We get a guaranteed overpower. You do a bunch of damage. Sweet.
Mano, golpe brutal garantido.
And then we have reprisal here. So I got chained by that monster. She leapt on them, knocked them down, basically canceling that for me. All right, cool. Subo the Bounty Hunter. He's themed on longbows, which is precision shooting and traps. The other side of his tree is crossbows, heavy bolts, and explosives. And his perk is kind of broken up into two parts. So he has a passive component, which is he reveals enemies and materials on the mini-map. And his active component is that we call him the Bounty Hunter because he's going to call out targets during combat. And if you kill that target, you get a bunch of resource back. And also, the more you do that, the more often he's going to be casting Seeker. So you're kind of trying to keep this up where you want to make sure you're killing his targets and spending your resource before you do so. And this lets you just cast more abilities, which always feels great. All right, let's check out an example. So I'm in town. I'm going to walk out here with Subo. And you can look at the mini-map, top right, and it's starting to populate with herbs and ore veins, and you'll see all the monsters on the mini-map as well. So that's kind of his scouting
Passivo desse daí é boa.
Sorry, we're going to have to loop this one because I talked too slowly, but he also is marking a target, and you saw when I killed them, I got a bunch of resource.
Yeah, I know a lot of people with Subo, especially because the fact that he highlights like ore veins and things like that are pretty huge for people, especially with all the changes that we're adding to like how materials can also be used to maybe craft like legendaries and stuff. So Subo is kind of like my personal favorite, but yeah.
It definitely embraces, I think, what Brent was talking about too, where mercenaries are really about utility, and they kind of add choices that maybe you wouldn't necessarily pick on your character. or they help you just kind of like fill gaps in your build, or maybe encourage you to do, have more diversity in your build. Maybe they expose new options for you. So it's pretty interesting. All right, cool. We're gonna show off some Subo upgrades. So first we have Share a Drink, which is whenever he throws his Molotov, there's a chance for him to drop a healing potion for you. Mastermind, Subo's Wire Trap, and Trip Mines gain 60% size. And then you and Subo both have increased crowd control duration. Thrill Seeker is going to reduce cooldowns for every monster hit. So here's an example of Share a Drink. He threw a Molotov, he dropped a potion for me, and that can just help you more consistently get potions, which could definitely be useful for a lot of players. All right.
Yeah.
This is definitely a fan favorite. Forsaken Child. His tree is sort of split up into two magic types: Fire Magic, which is all about burning enemies and making them suffer, and Shadow Magic, which is haunting souls that kind of like apply dots and spread to enemies. His perk is dependent on what your skill tree choices are. So if you're on the fire side of the tree or the shadow, you will get different buffs and debuffs. So every once in a while, he's going to turn into a demon of one of those forms. If he's on the shadow side, you and all the enemies around him become vulnerable. If he's on the fire side, he's going to make it so all your direct damage applies burn to enemies, but it's also draining your resource. So he's really themed around this Kiss Curse mechanic, and whenever this happens, it can be a huge benefit, but also there's some downsides to it, potentially. All right, cool, so he's casting some fire skills. We're gonna see Altkin on the left, he's turning into a fire demon. This gives him a whole new skill set. He's got immolation, he's burning nearby enemies, and he's helping kill everything. And then you can see when I'm doing direct damage, it's applying burn, but also my resources draining. This is if I'm on the shadow side. He turned into a shadow demon at the top. He's going to do a cool ability where he pulls everyone into a line, lines them up for you. That always feels really good. And yeah, in that one, he's making everyone vulnerable. Sweet, let's talk about some upgrades for Aldkin. So I think this will be a lot of people's favorites. Ember's Gift, whenever he casts Firestorm, if you stand in it, you're getting 33% of your primary resource per second. And we're going to show a video of that in a sec. Terrify, he does Haunt. Yeah, thank you. He's got 30% chance to apply invulnerable to enemies, so another way to get keywords applied to things. And Burning Chaos, that's his old...
Vulnerável é muito bom, cara.
That's his. Wave of Flame is really cool. It's this giant fire wave that destroys enemy projectiles. You can kind of like run with it.
Tem mercenário que faz isso.
I've seen a lot of people get use out of that. Cool, okay, let's check out Ember's Gift. So he's going to cast Firestorm, and look at my resource. It's just flying up really fast while I'm standing in this area. So it's a good way to kind of have this happen, and then you just get to spam a bunch of abilities and murder monsters. So yeah, here's a quick example of, we do have a lot of keywords and ways for mercenaries to utilize them and spread them to enemies, so that can help with a lot of builds too.
Yeah, it's nice having an option to like add vulnerable to more enemies, especially like AoE, doing AoE or anything like that. So yeah, really cool to see. I know, of course, there's other mechanics with mercenaries that we did want to talk about. So Dan, do you want to jump into how reinforcements actually works?
Yeah, let's talk about reinforcements. So I guess before I explain reinforcements, there are
Então, ele também te torna vulnerável, é.
One is hiring them, and that's for solo players. So if you're playing solo, you're not in a party, you can hire a mercenary. Everyone at all times can also have a reinforcement. So if you're in a party, everyone has a reinforcement. If you're solo, you get both. And if you're playing solo, they have to be two different characters. So your hired mercenary has to be different from your reinforcement. All right, what the heck are reinforcements? So reinforcements
reforço, você pode usar dois mercenários, né? É reforço e companheiro.
At an opportune moment, and you get to sort of control when that happens. And this reminds me a lot of like old school fighting games where you can kind of cast an ability and a character will fly in off screen, he'll do something really cool. Hopefully that helps you a lot, and that's, I think very much inspired by that.
Yeah, it's like assists. They jump in, they do something, and then they like pop back out, so it's really cool.
So you're gonna choose an opportunity, which is when does it happen? You could link this to any of your action bar slots. So you could say, hey, when I press 1 and I teleport, the mercenary does this skill, and then you choose a skill that you have unlocked for that mercenary. All right, let's check out some
condicional, que nem a runa.
I'm gonna cast teleport, you see here appear. And then he sort of flies in battle. He does this triple slam. He groups everyone up. Grouping enemies up is always good. Thank you, Rahir. I drop a meteor on their head. In this one, we cast Bone Prison, and Oldkin shows up and casts Firestorm for me. there's going to be a lot of combinations here, I think, with all the different player abilities and all the different reinforcement skills. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how players utilize the system. You can use it more defensively or more offensively, and hopefully you agree, a lot of the skills give you added utility. So I think there's a lot of opportunities here to mix and match, which would be cool.
Another thing I'm excited about that.
Eu gostei da prisão de ossos ali.
And so our ability to add more conditions in which you bring them in and continue to grow potentially the powers that we can see too. It's a very robust system that can go a pretty long way. So it's great.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. And I think finally we want to talk about some bartering.
Yeah, we're going to talk about rapport, which is the progression, and then bartering, but they're all, it's all tied together.
It's all one unit.
We're good.
It's all tied together.
Yeah, so rapport is the progression for mercenaries. And we could go ahead and jump to the first slide. So this is what the rapport looks like. You may be familiar with this type of UI. In this example, we're rank 5. The first 4 skill ranks are how you get your skill points. We want you to unlock all the cool, fun abilities for mercs pretty quickly and up front. After that point, it's all about upgrades for bartering. And bartering is, we're going to show it off in a second, but progressing your mercs improves the bartering system, which is kind of a way to trade with mercenaries at the hideout and get really useful items. So the very last rank, we hovered over it quickly there, you can actually repeat the very last rank for mercenaries and continue to earn the currency. So if you say, hey, I really like Altkin, I don't want to level anyone else up, you could just keep playing this character and you'll keep getting resources. Hopefully we're encouraging you though with these upgrades to kind of rank up all your mercs and keep making bartering better. All right, let's talk about bartering. So at the hideout, you can talk to Fiera and she will pull up a UI where you can trade for items. A lot of them are legendaries, and as you upgrade your mercs, you're gonna basically increase this list so you can find more interesting things. Hopefully you can find some really cool legendary items that you're excited about. As you upgrade your mercs, you're gonna get more chances for legendaries, and each mercenary has an aspect category associated with them. So Oldkin, for example, gives you resource aspect caches. So if you level up all
Cada mercenário tem o seu próprio
legendary, you're going to get a resource legendary aspect cache. And in this case, we open one of those caches.
Próprio estilo,
a bunch of items. It's not
Daí tem ancestral
farming, but it's a way to increase your chances of things you may be looking for. There's going to be a lot of other really useful items in here, like crafting materials, boss summoning parts, some masterworking recipes, things like that. And that's about it. So you can restock the supply on this, and the currency you re-roll this inventory with is the same currency that you're spending to buy items. So you kind of have to pick and choose, like, do I want to re-roll or do I want to wait? And hopefully you see things that you're interested in and you buy them. And then every day when you log in, you get one free re-roll. Just trying to be nice to the players. Hopefully you get what you want without having
Pode rolar de graça uma vez por dia. Ó o gacha chegando.
Mercenaries today, so thank you for...
Yeah, I love hearing about the bartering system because it's just another avenue for hey, if I need masterworking materials or if I need boss summoning materials, I can literally go and check and see if I can.
Nota sai depois dessa live deles.
Another opportunity for getting those specific things, which is really cool to see. So, Dan, thank you very much for walking us through the mercenaries coming to Vessel of Hatred, and so everything that this group actually talked about.
Oh, Tigrinho.
This is all exclusive to Vessel of Hatred. So with the expansion and anyone who actually ends up purchasing the expansion, they'll be able to access all the different features that we talked about, from Spiritborn to Cuirass Undercity to Dark Citadel, and of course the Mercenaries. So lots of stuff in the expansion specifically for this that we're all excited for everyone to jump into. October 7th, 4 p.m. Pacific in California. Globally, wherever your time zone is, that it's tied to that is when it will end up hitting. So, and we have a cool map. But I know we talked about a lot today. We do want to, of course, do our normal Q&A that we always do at the end. But before we actually end up doing that, I know, Brent, you wanted to talk a little bit about the journey here.
Yeah, honestly, we talk at the team level a lot about our communication with the community at this point. And I've said it a few times where it's it feels so good to be in a dialogue now. And everybody at home, you've heard us say, we're listening. I actually feel like...
Mano, deu quase 3 horas isso aqui.
At this moment, we really feel like the community is now one of our team members. And we're developing together. at this point, and we're starting to all pull in the same direction, and we've learned so much, right? We've come out with season 1. We took some lumps there, right? We knew we had a lot of work to do, and all the dialogue that we've had has led up to like things like the success of season 4 and season
Passe de batalha.
And so
Vai ter, eu não sei se eles já mostraram. Acho que não, mostraram. Será que vai mostrar? Acho que não, porque já começou no Q&A. Mas tem.
There's things we want to get to.
Que toda temporada tem.
Yeah. All right.
We want to
Which is
get
in development. Yeah. So.
Das créditos lendários, no final tivesse uma Nick, seria hype.
These are the types of things that are really fine-tuning the way we get there. And honestly, we couldn't get there without all of you at home. Thank you for staying with us on this journey. Can't wait to get to the Q&A.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and again, like just to reiterate, like what Brent was saying, I think the community is speaking about how they really wanted us to have a PTR, having those PTR moments, having players in earlier, being able to provide that feedback. Huge shout out to you guys for being able to help us out with this journey that we've been on. You know, we've made some massive strides since the first season, and it's only getting better from here, which is really cool. So awesome. Well, I think we're going to jump into the Q&A. We're actually going to bring some people in from before, swap people out, do the musical chair thing again, and we'll see you here in a minute for the Q&A. If you guys have questions, please start teeing them up in chat, and we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. So we'll see you in a minute.
Perguntas e respostas, gente. Vou aproveitar e vou encher meu copo. Voltei, gente. No vídeo do Akarate, a expansão já aprendiz? Não, é coisa que tem na wiki já isso daí. Tipo, não tem nada ali que da expansão, gente. Só pra deixar claro, tá? O Diego, ali é tudo de coisas que eles já mostraram, coisa que tá na wiki, coisa que tá nos livros.
All right, we're back for Q&A. Welcome back, everyone.
Voltou todo mundo.
Wave. Everyone's like, all right, come on.
It's been a long stream.
Yeah, it's been a long stream. Holy cow. We're at almost 2.5 hours. We're going to do about like 10 minutes of Q&A, and then we'll have a quick little outro just to get everyone teed up before we head into patch notes being released and, of course, the expansion. So I know we have some of our faces from earlier, so we can try to hit as many topics as possible. But I know one big question that we have been getting specifically about, or specifically with Vessel of Hatred and of course like the base game, I think we have it queued up. Like, how will crossplay work for those playing with and without the expansion?
Tem dúvida contra essa primeira nota espírito. Na verdade, os discípulos de Akarate tipo, meio que formaram muita coisa, né? Mas que nem a Izevete, que foi com ele para Naranto, que estudou junto com ele o véu, né? Tipo, o reino espiritual. Depois que ele saiu varrido pro mundo, ela continuou ali e, tipo, fez a mesma coisa que ele fez, né? Tipo, ela entrou no reino espiritual e ela sobreviveu, então ela virou o primeiro ato espírito e aí ela começou a passar a informação pra frente.
You still can actually use those rune works still. Yeah, so it's still something that's going to be there. I know that one of the things that the team was looking at was like, hey, if you earned it in the other game, you can still use it. So it's more so the things within Vessel of Hatred, like Spiritborn or the region of Nahantu, those things just wouldn't be available for that base game user, or if you jumped over onto the base game. So
yeah, that's also why we gave everyone the 10 levels.
Na verdade, por um segundo eu achei que você estava gesticulando, mas quem disse que não sou eu?
All that good stuff.
Yeah, so it's a cool little like extra thing for people, and I know it does clarify a lot specifically on that. This was probably the biggest thing that people asked about during PTR, and so Brent, this is from Razzle Dazzle Darius.
A viúva do Paladino.
A lot of people. Speaking of D2, I'm wearing my D2 jacket. Will we get the D4 campfire screen back?
So we were talking about it during the interstitial just a little bit.
Eles querem a fogueira de volta.
Through a monitor, like that was the moment that that came through. You know, we hear it loud and clear. One of the things that we are doing is trying to set ourselves up for success for adding more classes to the mix. And so the campfire is one of those things where we're taking a look at it and trying to figure out how that would work. And so we updated it where we are kind of like really in and you don't get that initial setup. So that is something that like immediately when the feedback started coming through, the team started to mobilize and talk about what we can do. Turning it around in time fast enough for like Vessel of Hatred was, we had other things like balance and polish that we really wanted to pay attention to, make sure some of the UI elements for some of the new features were in a good spot. So we hear you.
Eles vão ter que voltar, cara. Eu acho que dá pra mesclar. Eu acho que dava. Principalmente porque a gente tá falando que no Diablo 2 a gente tem mais classes do que tem no Diablo 4. E funciona.
Very popular topic after PTR. They're like, "Where's the campfire?"
Every moment
I can see like the flames kind of like in the screen, but where is like the full-on campfire?
Yeah.
We have a question from Ram0, which is, will there be more renown and statues of Lilith in this expansion? How does that specifically work?
Yeah, we're not going to be doing statues of Lilith specifically. We're going to be having a new statue type
The Tenet of Akarat.
Tenet of Akarat, which is
Ensinamentos de Akarat aí, ó.
Points, but it is working towards renown, and so there's still a lot of discoverability in the zone.
Ensinamentos de Akarat não te dá ponto de atributo, mas te dá reputação.
And statues of Lilith, of course, are still in.
They still exist.
In the base.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
The stats.
Vai saltar de meio do mato, mandar o Nato Espírito tá aí pra isso.
Frustrated players were with like having to do this sort of activity to get more powerful.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more leaning into the collectible aspect.
Yeah, we didn't want these to feel like a chore that you needed to do in order to progress your player power. It's all about the discoverability, right?
Yeah.
In the new zone.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And I will say that the other thing with Renown specifically, like we made changes. Something we talked about during the PTR, but we kind of optimized it a little bit better because there was like Paragon points at the last tier of Renown, and that's actually been like swapped back around now. So it's more of like the Obol upgrades are at the last tier.
It's easier to get that potent power from Paragon. We also just sort of reduced how much Renown you need for a lot of these things. So if you missed out on Renown when the game came out, it's a lot easier to get that power.
Yeah. It's good way for people like, especially friends.
O nome tá mais fácil agora, gente.
Before, just to like kind of catch up specifically from that end. One thing this just dawned on me that I did want to also mention is that back in season 3, we introduced the Gauntlet, and that has the leaderboard mechanics and stuff like that. One thing I do want to actually do a quick call out on is like when season 6 starts and when Vessel of Hatred actually does ship, we do plan on actually sunsetting the Gauntlet and the leaderboard functionality there. Does that mean leaderboards are going away forever? No, that doesn't mean leaderboards are going away forever. We're actually looking at new ways of potentially
Gauntlet morreu.
For it.
Yeah, I'd rather say like leaderboards are vaulted as we do a big reassessment on how that applies to the new progression actually that we're looking at releasing with season 6. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity there, but again, we've made so much change. It's a time to take a deep breath and then take a look at the things that we really want to invest
in.
É
oficial, temporada 3 de Diablo 4 não serviu pra nada.
I wanted to mention that. There's a question.
Nada da temporada 3 se manteve.
Hey, how does Group Finder work? This was actually available during PTR, and I know not everyone got to experience PTR, but kind of like Party Finder itself, of course, you can use it across multitudes of activities from Dark Citadel, beyond Dark Citadel, which is being introduced in Vessel of Hatred, but it is a feature that you can also use, or that allows you to actually use filters and different ways of searching for specific groups and people. So we do recommend jumping in, checking out Group Finder.
As temporadas
It's actually super awesome.
Tá tendo derrame,
There's
Diego?
going to be improvements that
Precisa ligar
will be made to it.
Yeah, another system that
algum
we're
lugar.
develop in a way that can grow with the player, and so we got it out in PTR to try to get.
Temporadas boas são as pares. Não, a temporada 5 foi do caramba e é ímpar.
As we add activities to the game, we want to make sure that those are plugging into it as well. We do think that this game is a ton of fun if you're playing together, and so we've designed it to do exactly that.
We have a question regarding opals and tributes.
Serviu sim, são serviços e repetir a atrocidade que o Matador dizia.
Curious Undercity opals being part of the new season.
Putz, o Matador dizia foi bosta mesmo, né, cara? Mas o Matador serviu pra fomentar os glifos novos.
I think the initial.
Não é, o Matador foi na 2.
Seeing some of these new consumables.
A 2 foi do sangue.
Tim, I think this would be a question for you. Like seeing these new consumables, are they actually like stackable in inventory? Like how?
Yeah. You can stack them in inventory. In fact, if you want, you have the option. You can go just farm the Realm Walker over and over again, get a whole bunch of the opals. And then just, okay, I'm going to play now for hours and hours with the buff active, if that's something you want to do. And tributes as well are stackable.
Awesome.
I did like the fact, too, I can't recall if we mentioned it, but you get 2 tributes with every drop.
Yes.
And so you don't...
Or, sorry, 2 opals.
2 opals, sorry, yeah. So you can, use one now and save one for later, and so you can really determine, you can actually stack these up for a longer play session later on if you wanted to play in the weekend and actually really dig in.
There is a question regarding mercenaries. It's actually a question I've seen. Maybe it's a 2-parter, but a lot of people are asking specifically, like, hey, how does the progression of mercenaries kind of carry over? Is it something that's across the whole entire account, or
progresso dos mercenários é uma boa pergunta.
Yeah, so they're partition wide. So if you're playing in the season and you unlock the mercs and you progress a bunch of them and then you roll an alt, that progression is still there. But we do reset every season because it's a part of the power journey, and we want to make sure you're doing that. But as you're playing, there's a lot of benefits to investing into them, especially if you're going to roll a second class.
There is a question.
Os mercenários, quando você sobe de nível, você pode pegar com outro
This
personagem.
might be tied to some of the rune word stuff that we showed, but this is God King Moonin says, how do those spirit wolves damage scaling work? I think they're talking specifically about the rune words that we were showing and everything like that.
Yeah, I can talk a bit about that. But leave
Os lobinhos.
Spirit wolves are not currently scaling with things like if you have summoning damage for a necromancer. A lot of that damage scaling talks directly to your skeleton summons at the moment. So I don't believe they'll necessarily scale with those.
Não escala com
precisely which ones it does. But that's something that we're aware of and really want to make sure that we can deliver on that fantasy, and we'll be looking at making updates to minions and summons as a general matter going forward, to really make sure that they're scaling with the right things that players expect, to really make those builds feel natural and synergistic as you would expect. So that's definitely an area of focus for us.
Ou seja, lobo não serve pro necromante.
Cool if you could be a summoner barb with called ancients and like having them deal bulkier damage. So that's something we definitely talk a lot about.
Yeah, we don't have any particular thing to announce or the exact initiative at this moment, but it's definitely on our radar, and it's something we are actively working on and talking about all the time.
Awesome. I know that.
Nunca gostei do necro mesmo.
This is back to Tim actually, because I think you had mentioned like, oh, farming realm walkers, and they're going like, okay, so is it a world event? How often does it spawn? Like, what, like, do we have like specifics on that? We can help clarify on that specific question.
It is a world event, yeah, and it is really focused around just that boss. It's not a world boss exactly, it is a world event. Like was explained by Don earlier in the cast, you have to kind of follow him for a while before you're allowed to kill him, but it is something that you do with other people in the area. There's likely to be a bunch of other people helping you take down this boss. And then the Realm Walker itself does pop up in another location in Sanctuary pretty much right away. There's a slight break, but at any given time, we want the experience to be, I log in, I'm ready to go play, I see like, I don't have any opals, can I go get some? We want the answer to pretty much always be yes. Like there's always a Realm Walker up somewhere that you can go kill, so
os Realm Walkers vão estar sempre no... É que nem Maré Infernal.
But you're not waiting more than a few minutes before another one's going to pop up and you can go kill that one. So if you want to chain farm them, you can.
Yeah, just run back to town, vendor some stuff. By the time you come back, it'll probably be an ideal time to actually farm it. So it's actually really good to hear that it's just always available.
Sabe o que eu queria dessa cena aqui? O plush do Mephistinho, velho.
Like from a tuning and balance perspective,
o lobo não serve pro Neco porque eles vão ficar roendo os ossos das caveiras.
Attainable goal, or is there? Are we expecting some of like the most skilled players, or dedicated players, to kind of clear it?
Yeah, I'd say we will be surprised, but not surprised, I guess, to see people get to pit tier 100 just with the amount of things that we're adding into the game. Charles, in our previous segment talked about how much volatility has been introduced in the expansion. We actually think that's really fun. Like there's a ton of new things to explore, a ton of new things to break. And we think that probably most people won't get to 100, but you might get a surprise if you go to 100 and go past it. Yeah. We might have done something there.
Yeah, we talked quite a bit about where the deep end of the pool is, right? And so
it's
we're
around 80. Around 80, yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to seeing which kind of streamers out there actually push way past that so we can take a look.
Definitely.
Your Sparrow asks, if we complete the campaign in Eternal Realm, will we be able to skip it when we create a seasonal character?
Yes, as soon as you complete the campaign for the first time, you'll be able to skip it. Very similar to what we did in the base game.
Yeah, and I think there's actually like additional nuances that we've added with like Vessel of Hatred. Like for instance, if you are brand new to Diablo, of course we recommend you start from the base game and experience the campaign and that journey. But even if you are coming into Diablo 4 with Vessel of Hatred and you just want to start with Vessel of Hatred, you really just need to complete that prologue of the base game, and then you will then get that option, I believe, to skip the base campaign, and you can actually jump into the expansion campaign.
Yep.
You actually don't even have to complete the prologue.
Oh, there we go.
So
there
you even took out that part.
You're a liar, Adam. You're a liar.
Nem o prólogo você precisa fazer mais. Daqui a pouco você não precisa mais nem jogar.
And you skip forward when you go into Vessel of Hatred. We actually do recaps. So we'll catch you up on the story even if you decide to do it. So if your friends are all way ahead of you and you want to skip so that you can catch up, you're good.
Yeah,
right?
we got one of those like in the last episode of whatever.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's actually really cool to watch. So just in case if you're new to everything.
There's another detail too, which is like once you play through the Vessel of Hatred story section, we want way more players to get into the end game. We notice that there's a lot of folks out there that once they get the big story beats done, it's not really clear on where to go from there. So we created a custom quest that can actually bridge you.
Jogo relevante, bufar o bárbaro. Normal, a gente já esperava isso.
That would be super good.
Falaram um pouco da raid, falaram um pouco dos novos eventos e da temporada.
I was like, what is
A Blizzard vai vender token de level up automático igual no WoW? Não vi nada a respeito. Aluguel pago. Obrigado, LK.
Everybody that makes us look good is back there, so thank you guys.
Yes, thank you very much. We're going to take, I guess, like one more specific question here. Let me see. This is actually a question regarding people that are running specifically in Dark Citadel. Like if someone leaves during Dark Citadel, like what happens to the group specifically? Can they all just leave? They're not like locked in there going like, oh gosh, I'm stuck in that type of situation. Or
ainda bem que bufaram o Bárbaro, é importante ver com essa classe desvalorizada bem sendo reconhecida.
Like you can adapt and kind of work your way through it.
You can. Like we said, the game, the Citadel is balanced for 4, but if that was to drop, as long as you got 2 strong players still in the mix, you should be good to go. So yes, it makes it more difficult. I'd have a firm conversation with the person who decided to drop in the middle of a fight, but yeah, you're still going to be able to progress through it.
Awesome, cool. Well, I know we've been going for a while here, and we wanted to grab as many questions as possible so we don't keep people too long. Because the biggest
Fazendo caveira com livro de receita da vovó é foda.
The patch notes, and I know a lot of people want to dive into the patch notes, but
eu devo guardar do Eterno pro meu Chars.
Drop off, like,
cara,
I know you wanted to...
Anderson, eu vou falar a verdade. Se fosse você, deixava
we
Eterno e o resto mata tudo.
One of our art directors on the team, and it just really reminded
Por quê? Porque aí você vai ter material, os itens, ouro, sabe? De todos os seus personagens. Mas
over the last dozens of months.
O lance é a temporada mesmo, cara.
So we just want to say thank you to everybody that's putting the hard work in. We're still putting the hard work in today. Like we're working all the way up through this, and so we love the team, we love you guys, keep up the good work.
Nerfaram o Bárbaro que tá com o de espinho, refletiu, acertou o Necro que tá do outro lado da fogueira. Foi muito isso.
Huge shout out to Team 3, Team Diablo, you guys kick ass.
Yeah.
Best team. We're super proud of everyone with the Vessel of Hatred and everything. And we're super excited for October 8th. There's a lot of stuff coming up. We have patch notes immediately after this stream. I want to give a huge shout out to everyone here and of course who was on the live stream today. It's always fun doing these live streams. It's a big scramble. This is the most...
Mas guarda o que ele tem? Guarda, deixa em personagem só.
Production team and of course our community team, like with Mr. Filthy Rich back there, who organizes all these great. That's his handle, guys.
Uma coisa, o LK, não precisa fazer curso de matemática para entrar na Blizzard.
It's our 20th stream. It's crazy to see how everything has grown. Big reminders on Twitch.
Não, isso é verdade, Diego. Faz a história, que é uma boa. E aí você cria personagem já na história nova.
And grab more in-game stuff as I eat trolleys all day. And then another big thing that I do want to give a quick call out. In the coming days, you guys are actually going to hear about another cool partnership we're doing with Discord, which will offer up another opportunity for some cool in-game stuff. So, and we'll be talking about that here in the coming days. But thank you guys again for tuning in to our pre-launch stream. Lots of stuff to check out in the patch notes immediately after the stream. And again, a huge thanks to everyone here. We will see you guys October 8th.
Papai de ser ponto de sabe matemática, sei.
And we can't wait to jump into Vessel of Hatred.
We'll see you guys.
O cara já passa um vermelhão assim no currículo. Colocou a sua janela sem bloquear de propósito? Sim. Eu sempre faço isso. Coitado do Adam Fletcher ali, ele já perdeu a cabeça ali. Ô, gente, muita coisa legal eles mostraram. Eu vou ser muito sincero. Vou encerrar agora. Por quê? Eu tenho um monte de coisa pra fazer. Eu sei, eu até queria ficar mais pra discutir essas coisas. Galera, obrigado. LK, valeu. Phantom, Jairo, Galahad, Rani, Caliel, gente, Diegão, o Anderson. Muito obrigado pela presença de vocês, gente. Vai ter uma paulada de conteúdo vindo aí, tá? Não se esqueçam, review na sexta-feira, 1h da tarde. E agora eu vou, porque para esse review sair na sexta eu tenho que fazer mais um monte de coisa. Galera, de novo, muito obrigado. Eu não vou mandá-lo para lugar nenhum, não. Só vou encerrar mesmo, tá? E a gente se vê logo mais.